How are
Hi.
you?
I'm okay. I didn't notice it was 11 o'clock
That's
because I've been
So
sitting here listening to near music all night. Oops.
nice.
All night being the hour since I've been home.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Oh man.
It's one of those days.
I
All
don't
right,
get it.
Mike's alive.
Yay!
That was
Right in.
okay.
Yeah, that's what happens when I'm running strikes and not paying attention to time.
Oh, so we're all not paying attention to time.
Yeah,
I was in chat ahead of time.
What was
We're
time?
all not
What's
paying
time?
attention to time.
I don't know what
Sure.
time is.
Hashtag.
Flag, flag.
Pew
Hot
pew.
mics.
Choo choo.
Hot mics.
Hot mics.
All right. All right.
Bonnie.
All right.
Bonnie.
Why are we grumbling already? Because of the. Really? We're grumbling already.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even been a full week.
Bonnie.
But no, I'm not even grumbling because of that. I'm just sitting here going, yo, we gotta say all right.
Yes. I am totally repping the dark side. I
You
will
would.
totally. I know.
I want the oxygen scout rifle.
Hi.
Well, then why don't you go get it? And
I am
show
going to
up?
get it. Oh my god, this
Oh.
triumph is a pain in the ass. It's like, you have to run 50 bajillion strikes. Fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yarp.
What was the name of the thing that blew up Keldavij? Vaj? Whatever her name is. That turned her into the singularity. It's in Oracle, but I can't remember what it was called.
What do you mean?
Skimming.
I don't remember.
So there was a presence that shows up in the Dreaming City book that speaks to Mara,
Oh, yeah.
and then it goes and blows up one of the Techians, essentially. Trying to remember what it's called, and I'm skimming.
Well, I don't know if it ever gets named. Oh, the Ancients.
The Ancients, that's what it was. Got it.
It thinks itself wise.
Mm-hmm. For some reason, I hear it in like a female golem voice
Yeah.
when I read that one.
It's talking like the Leviathan, but...
Right. Hi, everybody. Oh, I'm going to send you the audio, but I don't want you to play it for chat yet. But I have the song done. I just need to edit the volume levels.
Cool.
It's freaking hilarious. Actually, I'll just send you the lyrics. That's even better. Then you can just not have to listen to my terrible singing rendition of it. So, Beard,
What?
I got dared.
What? I don't wanna. You can't make me.
I got dared to sing this, record it kind of thing ish. Sort of dared.
Ish.
You'll recognize the song once you get to the
Okay. All right.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
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 All right, all right, all right.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay. Okay.
Ding, 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 ding.
Green. 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 I got the Mission Impossible emote.
Oh yeah. I have I bought the headphone emote on both consoles, and I was like, I'm done. I don't need anything else.
Oh my god, this is amazing. It's the arm reload him. It's so funny.
Uni, I am not a sloth. I am a bear. I am a grumbly bear.
Who's just coming out of hibernation. So you don't want to mess with them because he's hungry and
I will maul your face.
Oh my god, this emote makes me so happy.
Mm-hmm. Oh, fuck my ankle. That hurts. Oh, shit. Shit.
Hashtag.
That's
Pew pew. Choo choo.
Hey, thanks for the subscription.
Hey, thank you.
Dead again. Hey, I'm dead again.
Oh, so yeah, Green, you're right. I've been running Black Talon. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. I still don't have that goddamn sword.
I'm sorry.
On either console, that's what's pissing me off. Is like, Lux has it, Cole has it. I'm like, what the fuck? It's like the one thing I'm missing. Like, I am literally going to my collections page right now, and I'm missing pulling up exotics. Come on, UI. Power weapon. I'm missing Worldline Zero for a good reason, and then Black Talon is the one that it's not an unknown one that I'm missing, and I'm like, motherfucker. You were literally the only fucking power weapon I'm missing. Except for like the 3 unknowns at this point. And I'm like, God, I hate you. Like the other things are quest derivative. Arbalest? That's a new one.
Arbalest?
I haven't read this one yet. Ooh, that's kind of cool looking.
I haven't seen it, but
it's kind of like it looks kind of like a submachine gun, but it's very angular.
Oh, yeah, that one. Okay, yeah. I know which one you're talking about. Wait, why isn't oxygen an option anymore?
Why can't we breathe?
God damn it.
Oh, yeah, Uni, I'm super jealous. I want it so bad because I miss having what was the arc? It was the arc sword back in D1 that would throw it. Oh god. I wish so much. Oh, Star. I'm gonna need you to pull that out for me.
You remind me, I need to go and talk to Zur because he actually has shit this week.
Where is it at?
I don't know. I think in the tower.
Yeah, he's in the tower. Yeah.
Okay.
He's over by Dead Orbit.
Yay. Wait. Why?
I don't know.
Because he always is.
Is that like his permanent location? He's not on
in the tower,
planets?
Yes.
Oh, the new lore with Zur is creepy as shit.
Dude, the whole fact that you know how Zur or why Zur is hunched over is
right.
Don't piss off. Sure. Like, I don't understand why people keep doing this.
Yeah. Was it Zur or was it Orin?
Oh no, it was Orin. It was Orin.
Orin was the one who fucked him up.
Yeah, with her hammer.
Orin is basically Wei Ning 2.0, except Wei Ning uses fists and Orin uses mauls.
Well, yeah, she's a sunbreaker.
Which is interesting because Orin was like the pacifist / mediator prior.
Well, she was an emissary. She was never a pacifist.
That's true. Gosh. Yeah.
I'm gonna say she took a hunting rifle with her.
I know, yeah. She I don't think...
You see that I have no community question this week.
Yes. Hey, I got full vigil armor.
That is true. She was not aggressive necessarily. Oh my goodness.
She was in the Pilgrim Guard.
Mm-hmm.
Before the Pilgrim Guard was with the city. Which, by the way, did anyone catch that little nonsense there?
What
was that? Sorry.
The Pilgrim Guard was around before the city, and it was actually independent of the Titans of the city. It actually the city. No, the city adopted the Pilgrim Guard, or the Pilgrim Guards adopted the city. But the Pilgrim Guard was actually around long before the city even started. It was like I was like, oh, that's an interesting thing.
I thought that was always the case, but
no,
okay.
because
it was an order. We thought it was an order.
Was that it was like a full-on
gotcha.
order, a full-on
like a derivative.
Right.
Well, it was like fully to blame for the city was like fully to blame for the Pilgrim Guard being a thing.
Right. Because the Pilgrim Guard
like it was there because of the walls, and it turns out the walls don't mean fuck.
Right?
Did you catch the fact that Lu Fang was part of Shax's fire team?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I love it.
It's also like
Beard, by the way,
the city.
My brain feels like yours with the revelation of who Sagoth is.
Yeah, I'm
the
say
Red Man.
I saw you.
Oh my fucking god! Like, the connections are immense.
Where did you find that?
Lady Peyrune Grimoire card. Sagoth is cloaked in red. And then with all the Drifter cards, he's talking about the Red Man and Dryden. So there's like this huge connection, and Drifter is so much more sympathetic now. But Dryden is the asshole Iron Lord who violates the Iron Decree by setting up a town as bait for the Red Man. And Dryden is the one that ends up killing Sagoth. However, Dryden then goes on and pretends like he didn't do any of it. So, like, he's broken the Iron Decree, but then he starts hiding that fact. And Drifter, because of the little girl who gets killed, it seems like she asked him to do something. We don't know what she asked him to do, but that's when he takes on the name Wu Ming, who then falls in love with Orin, which that whole thing is really sad too, because she thinks he betrayed her and he doesn't, and he views her as her only god. The ramifications of Orin and the connection to Ikora, Drifter, and the Praxic Order. Like I was talking to Matt about this. I have a sneaking suspicion that that's going to be a very big component. I think we're going to try to rescue Orin from emissary status. And
that would be interesting. Can we, though?
Well, if you look at the end of the quest for Thorn, that's kind of... spoiler warning there, obviously.
I haven't read it yet.
Yeah, but that's actually part of the reason that Drifter is allowed to stay in the city. Is because of the information that he has about Orin, and because Ikora is dedicated to saving Orin. So is the Drifter. The Drifter is obsessed with saving Orin. That's where the Hall comes in.
On that same level, I wasn't sure that... I never necessarily saw love, just that they had an immense relationship of some sort.
So he replaced... So Wu replaced... what's his name? The Corsair that she fell in love with after she became... Namki Sen. Wu Ming was the basically the rebound for him, and you're right. It never expressly, but Drifter refers to her as his only friend. And if you read all the cards, it's so immensely emotional between the two of them, because
they're incredibly connected. But
that's true. Physical, I don't know.
Yeah,
there are a couple of things that kind of hint at a physical relationship.
Yeah, I kind of there were kind of mentioned, but it wasn't expressed. Yeah, it wasn't overtly stated.
It's about as good as the helmet stayed on. It's a very similar relation to that. You're talking a T15 game. They can't get into those kind of ramifications. That's
true. That's true.
So
I kind of argue that it's a pretty good assumption that there was something going on.
Yeah.
Also, not to mention, God damn it, Drifter is Kirby. Fucking hell. He eats everything. He just eats literally, he consumes everything.
I would just like to say very quickly that I have a reason to level my Titan this week, because I now have Ursa Furiosa.
Nice. The polar bears.
Because Zur is...
Oh yeah, that's right, because Zur has it, right?
Dragonfly, I actually make a point of not reading some of the things that are currently redacted, as far as like the.
Yeah, that's why she has me, because I don't.
Yeah, but in a way, you may as well just read a good majority of them, because
I've
at this
read
point
the books.
we're getting. Yeah, well, I mean,
just not the Thorn thing.
Well, the messages
that's in
that are coming
the messages.
I've been reading those. Yeah.
Oh
the
my god!
Messages.
Beard, did you read the? Have you read it?
I haven't had time to read all but one book. All right, you give me some time here. God,
okay.
God, Blue.
No,
what do you think I am?
No,
listen.
Listen.
Hey,
they explain. Hey! They explain what happened with Callum, like in detail.
Yeah,
in detail.
I
my god, it's amazing. It's fucking. Oh my god, I love it. And I called it. I'm so happy.
What I'm flabbergasted at is the fact that I was on the right track of split personality, but I got the person wrong.
Yeah. Well, I'm just glad because I'm like, oh yes, redemption stories. All of them, and then oh my god, the ending of Shin, oh my god, I was so happy.
Oh god, yeah, I was actually in the party with Wicked when we were going through this. I was reading the books while he was playing, and we were bouncing the ideas back and forth. Which is,
I'm waiting for Damo to read them.
Oh god, Damo's gonna flip his shit.
Also, I need to get this one out there real fast, too. The city was always called the city, bitches.
Yep.
Was it? Was that an argument?
Well, it was for some people.
Oh. What would it have been called if not the city?
I don't know, Tenson Hobbles Land?
Rabbit, you're fine. We're not gonna say the big ones.
What?
We are just...
Beard, you're gonna have to send me this conversation. What the fuck would you call it if it wasn't? What? That doesn't make any sense. Was I involved in this conversation?
I don't know. You may have purged this one from your brain.
That's entirely possible.
I think you may have wanted to purge this one from your brain. I'm just kind of referring back to a little one like this.
Oh, that bullshit.
Yeah, because logic is hard.
Oh, logic. What is that?
Thanks, Z.
What did Z say?
She just DM'd me.
Oh, no.
I'm always worried when Z DMs you.
What'd she say? Oh, God, I want to know.
No. It's basically what Beard just said.
Gotcha,
it was
gotcha.
he just fucking dumbass. Anyway. What was I doing? No, this one.
So how many Gambit matches have you played?
Me? 2.
Either of you? Hey, I'm impressed. Good job, Blue.
Fucking hate it.
I know you do.
But I did it for the stupid
Quest?
Yeah, that thing.
Mm-hmm. Beard, what about you?
But don't know. I had one day. And I think I only maybe played 5 matches. Maybe. That's it.
I'll be honest, I really actually have to defer to Paul Tassi, his article about losing faith in humanity because of Gambit Prime. I'm I agree 100% with him. I'm how fucking hard is this mechanic? I just, oh my god. And I understand Green. I completely understand what you're probably going to say is because I'm solo queuing it. I get it. But it's not difficult mechanics.
No, but you have to also remember...
shit! Why is it so fucking difficult for people to understand what to do?
Well, we still have people in the fucking community who don't know how to trigger a heroic event. So...
Right, well, okay, right. No, and I know that, and that's a very valid point. I will concede to this.
My only argument to that one, though, is that you would figure that those kind of people would be... And yes, I just said those kind of people. You people. The general idea that I would think is that they would be so few and far between. My question is, fuck is it every game?
It's okay, so here's the thing that I ran into when I solo queued at a time.
I won 1 game out of 10. I counted on freaking Monday night on the original Gambit. 1. How the hell are you that bad that you can't figure out that moats go in the fucking bank?
Well, it's not even that, dude. It's not even that. It's Prime is when they send blockers, they start draining it. And so, like, the problem is with us, like, I would have plenty of, I think I played 2 or 3 green. I think, to be fair, I did play 2 or 3 because I think I had to do I think there was one quest where I had to get a couple, I can't remember, but like multiple times we would be ahead by like 70 moats. Like, I mean, we were extremely ahead, and then no one would take out the blockers, and we went from 70 all the way back to 0. And like, we didn't even get to Primeval because no one was paying attention. Right. They were all running around. I don't know what the fuck they were doing because they weren't collecting moats, but it's like.
So here's my defense of this so far. It is week 1. Mechanics have changed drastically in how you have to play the Gambit. Because beforehand, you could just be a fucktard and run around and do things.
Okay.
No, it's true.
No. Okay. And I'm going to take that on the surface, okay? I understand that. But you're talking literally to someone who has, before this week, played 1 game of Gambit. Mm-hmm. I don't even know the fucking mechanics, and it took me 30 seconds to figure out. Mostly because, you know who's screaming in your ear on what to do?
Right.
The goddamn NPC who's telling you everything to do. Like, all you have to do is listen. It tells you exactly what to do.
There's a reason I'm doing the song and the lyrics and shit.
Yeah.
Oh no, I know.
I also figured out like what that song is, by the way.
I finished recording it earlier. It's just got to finish the editing now.
Yeah. I have a feeling I know exactly how that's gonna sound, and I'm all for it. Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be great. But here's the thing that I ran into. I
won 1 game out of 10.
I like how you really have to have a group that has their roles established, because you're right. If you get 2 blockers, your moats start draining, and you have to have somebody who's at the bank the majority of the time.
It's not even that, dude. It's not even that.
Or a fusion rifle or something to take them out. And then with a scout.
I won 1 game out of 10. I counted. On freaking Monday night on the original Gambit. 1! How the hell are you that bad that you can't figure out that moats go in the fucking bank?
Well, it's not even that, dude. It's not even that.
Here's the thing that I...
God damn it, Benz!
Wow. Wow.
What have I done?
You've been clipped.
Apparently.
Oh shit.
No Dragon Feet. Don't give me a bigger bank. Don't do that. That's a bad idea. A bigger bank, a bigger soapbox. Don't do that.
Oh my goodness.
See, moats go in the bank. It's so far in my head that I replace soapbox with bank. What is wrong with me?
Yep.
To your point, though, Green, too. Sorry. The biggest thing I will say is I do think mechanics are also going to change over time. Mostly because most people... Like, I've only got, like, +4 on my collector status right now. And I know that, like, most are not going to be able to get up to +20 or otherwise for a very long time. Mm-hmm. So that's where
a lot of
that's the set bonuses from said armor. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because like I see that. Oh my god, that's gonna change shit so much too.
Yes,
drastically. Yeah.
Yes,
from what I was listening to the fire team chat where Deej and oh my god, Invader Pants is the best thing ever. I love that statement. If you guys haven't listened to the fire team chat where they had like, I think it's like 45 minutes with Deej, Lars, and then I want to say it's Lisa. She was one of the I think the one who did the creative design on the armor, but she calls them invader pants. It's amazing. They broke Deej. But they talk actually a lot about the strategy of what that's gonna, like, that whole like concept, because they said like it's gonna change like every week now, because especially these next couple weeks, because they're unlocking the tiers, like it's just gonna.
Well, I'm gonna say you need some things to counter the one element, and then you need another thing to counter another element.
Right. Yeah.
Really
well, and you can mix and match them. They're not. Yeah. It's not all like, you don't have to be all collector or all invader. You can mix and match the perks, because the perks are not tied to the armor.
Right.
Which was really interesting, and apparently they're only applicable for Gambit Prime. So, which,
Other thing is, Gambit private matches are fun. Did that today with Issachel a little bit ago.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. You have lots of different customization aspects of it.
Oh, that's right, because they said something about like you can turn off the invader vision or something. I don't know what that is. Is that where you see the invader, or the invader sees you?
I think the invader can't see you. Like, you can turn off the tags over the top of you. So like normally when you invade, it shows like how many emotes you have to the invader.
Okay. I've never invaded, so I don't. I know like you can technically see the invader.
Sub, Tolan. Yeah. Thanks. You can't see, like, the invader can see you through walls, essentially.
Oh, okay.
Normally.
Okay. Because like, I don't think you can't see the invader. No. I don't think.
No.
Like, if he's he's in open, you can see him, but you can't see him through walls.
Correct. Actually, I did a lot of invading yesterday or 2 days ago, whenever I streamed with Cole, because we were doing Gambit Prime and they needed somebody to invade. I actually was doing okay on it, getting 14, 15 kills a game. I've been running Sentry most of the time too.
Sentry's the defense, right?
Yeah. The ones who's kicking the blockers off of the bank.
Regardless of like Gambit itself, however, the fact that they're like the overalls of what they're playing with on this expansion as a whole, the idea of set bonuses is intriguing.
Yes.
And hopefully will be added on further, because I know they've needed more.
Thanks, Pens.
And then in addition, I think that them playing not only with set bonuses, but this cyclical idea of going from one area to another to gain rewards or utilize rewards actually kind of helps a little bit more.
Well, it connects the world.
Well, it connects the world, but it also forces you into a different activity in a way, which also allows you to take a break from everything. Because I kind of find Reckoning cathartic, where I find Gambit Prime to be where I just want to punch everything in the face. So I get that little bit of like cooldown where I'm forced to settle down for a little bit.
I haven't run Reckoning just yet.
Reckoning is fun.
Fun. It's they classified it as
they turned me off when they turned me off. I was about to say, oh, it isn't? Okay. I heard they're like, yeah, we took a page out of Crota. I'm like, nope, I'm done. Like,
no.
I'm done. Think more of Escalation Protocol
or like Court of Orcs. It looked a little bit like Court of Orcs.
Yes.
Okay.
But
I would go with that.
It's a horde mode, but instead of like a set thing every single time, each day they've changed the modifiers. So like the first day they had Void Burn plus Rainbow Burn, essentially, where it went from Arc to Solar to Void. And so you had to switch out weapons and go through that. The other day they had Glass and something else as a modifier. I think yesterday...
That sounds like it's tying into the Vanguard strikes, because that's what today's modifiers were on the strikes.
Yeah. And it makes you really change how you play it, because honestly, you cannot go in right now at the level we're at and not be playing to the modifiers. You won't finish.
I also find it very nice that they are as easygoing, if you will, on it as they have been. Because if the group that you're with fails, you get your Court of Oryx pass back, if you will. So you get your tier emblem back right away.
Potato. Ikora may not be somebody who's going to be... Never mind, I'm just not going to spoil that side of it. Should we do top 3 and talk about pet peeves?
Sure.
Yeah, before we keep going about this the whole time.
I mean, we could keep going and make this a Let's Chat. I'm totally down for that. It's like, I have to move tomorrow, but we can do this. It's fine. I don't need sleep. It's, it's... I need sleep. Give me a second for this real quick. Lots and lots of coffee. Yeah, that's going to be me tomorrow. Luckily, I've been taking crap over the last couple of days, just small things, so it's just the big stuff. But it's still not fun.
All right, I'm good to go whenever you are.
One more second.
Okay.
All right. You ready for recording?
Yes, we are recording.
Cool. Shut off the rap music because that's not going to help me with the introduction. Welcome to FFC Top 3, a show where we, your FFC hosts, count things down from 3 to number 1. Thank you for joining us this week. If you have a suggestion for a topic for Top 3, be sure to drop us a note in any of the places, all of the places. You know where to find us. At FFC, or at Focus Fire Chat. My goodness, we're having a day today. In our Discord, or even email us at focusfirechat@gmail.com. This week, we're going to discuss our top 3. Ready for it? Pet peeves, essentially. It's the things that we cannot stand that other people do. And I'm a little leery about starting this one because it's starting off on a salty note, but we're going to do it. And I think Blue's up first this week.
Yeah, I think that's right. All right, so number 3 for me is, so this is a weird one. I guess the easiest way to say it is incompetence. But to kind of dive into it a little bit, it's more about like willingly not trying to figure out what you don't know. I have to deal with a lot of that at work, and it's really aggravating when you don't know something, but you have an individual who has no desire to actually learn. So I label it as incompetence, but it's also kind of borderline laziness, I think. And I don't know, like the
willful ignorance.
Yeah. I guess that would be the easier way to say it. But like my actual job is all about asking questions and trying to, break things in order to fix and make them better. And so when we run into individuals who are willfully ignorant or incompetent, basically, it makes everyone's life a lot more difficult, and it's like it's completely unnecessary. And when it boils down to it, a lot of times what it is just laziness. They, a lot of times people, and this is general humanity, and in the most general sense, we all fight against this, right? The way it's been done is just the way it's been done, and it works. So why mess with it? It's sometimes that's a very, very good thing to do, but not all the time. So that's where it kind of, and I understand that's a fine line, but that's where, like, for me, that is one of the biggest things, because that is something that I have to deal with every day at work. And you have to, and of course, with professionalism being what it is, you can't really call a spade sometimes. So yeah, that's where the frustration for that one comes from.
I get that. Beard, how about you? What's your number 3?
My number 3 is something that I hate doing to Green every now and again, because I know that I do it, and I know I'm not a perfect human being, and I know I step on toes when I do it sometimes.
I'm scared?
But it is when people talk over you.
Oh my gosh.
It's all right, look, I'm trying to make a point about something. I understand that I'm a little long-winded. I understand that I tend to embellish some things, because I tend to find that there are a lot of worthwhile things to talk about that are outside of the purview that you are generally asking me about. Because I think that education and understanding a thing that you are asking me about is very important. Because you asked me!
Mm-hmm.
So, why don't you shut up and let me talk, because I will probably answer your question eventually. Blue, I swear to God.
He's in chat. He's putting, but Blue, but beard.
I'm right there with you, actually. And I think, I don't know, Beard, if it's the same for you, but I think the reason I'm so sensitive about that is because exactly what you said. I constantly am trying not to do it, because my brain just goes like 50 different directions, and I know that about myself, and like I'm right there with you. I know I do it, and I try really hard not to, but it makes me really sensitive about when other people do it to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I
now
think that
wants
is
to talk.
Yeah, I know, right? There you go. I think it's interesting, because I think we're all susceptible to it.
Well, and it's one thing. It's one thing too in like this setting where it's hard, where we don't get to see each other too.
Right.
Like I have a little bit more leeway with something like that, and I understand that it's very difficult. But when I can physically see you, and you can see I'm about to open my mouth, and you jump in and do that, and I'm like, what in the world are you? Oh, just it aggravates me so much, because now, granted, working in retail is another piece of it too, which I've had to do that for several years. The general instance and idea that I have to basically tell people what it is they need to understand to know about either a product or otherwise, and I'm like, I do this for a general living. Like, I think I understand this very well. Like, give me like 2 seconds of your time, and I'll be able to exactly let you know what it is that you're looking for, or wanting to know about the thing that you're asking me about. It blows my mind that if you give somebody like a couple minutes of your time, you're probably going to know more about what's going on in general. I could kind of tie that back into some conversations I've had with people on either Destiny lore or something otherwise. But at that point, I am an old cynical man. I get that, but for Christ's sake, just give me a minute and you'll understand why I'm an old cynical man.
I mean, anyway. You work in retail. That's why, right? Like
that's... Yeah. Black Flag puts it perfectly. Retail makes you hate people. 14th understanding, 7th book of sorrow.
That's funny.
That is beautiful. I like that one, and I am keeping it. I will put that on my epitaph on my tombstone.
He's gonna have a Dredgen title next to him. My number 3 is people who chew with their mouth open. I'm like,
fair enough.
Why?
Yeah.
It's like you can stop that, please. Just shut your mouth. It's not hard. I understand if you can't breathe because your nose is stuffed up, that it makes it a little difficult, but shut your mouth. Like a cow. Exactly, Rexy.
Yeah, I'm going to say between... And it very much depends on like what it is that you're
Gum is
eating,
the worst.
Some things can be worse than others. Yeah.
Gum is the worst because it makes the most obnoxious noise.
Oh God, yes.
But
friggin' Valley Girl that's just sitting there going, oh.
Yep.
Oh. Anyway.
Yep. That's my number 3 is pretty simple, and I'm sure a lot of people have that kind of pet peeve. Blue, what's your number 2?
Small talk.
Yeah, I could see that with you.
Yeah, I could see that with him.
I don't know. Like it's like, so it's really weird because I interact with everyone here. Like with Focus Fire, I interact predominantly audio. Like I chat, via the podcast and stuff like that. So the only way to communicate things via this medium is to talk. However, in reality, it feels weird saying that, but like in my professional day and all that, I'm much more introverted. I'm much more like I usually have the personality of like I go in, I do my job, and I go home. Like I don't really require personal connections at the office. I actually don't really, short of like a couple, maybe very small handful of people, I have no interest in it. And that's just I'm a severe introvert as far as that goes. Like that's my personality. That's always been my personality. So yeah, like we have a number of women, and I don't usually make that stereotype, but it is predominantly in my situation, it is mostly women who are just like, so how was your week and how's your little one and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't even know your name. I don't remember your name. Please don't talk to me. But you can't say that. So I have to, yeah. So, but it's like, that is for me, that is like the nails on the chalkboard for me is just like being and they'll corner you. Like they're like aggressive small talkers. And I'm like, and I just want to stab them. I like want to punch him in the throat, and it's just like, can I go do my job?
I just see you getting cornered and like by the water.
It's so bad. It's not, and you joke about it, but it has literally happened. Like it is so bad. I get stuck in the kitchen because I have where I have my desk set up is there's like 3 of us that we all have the same personality. It's called the corner of sarcasm, and like people don't come into our corner because they don't like it. Like we are aggressively sarcastic about things. And so, but we've also set up a coffee station for our corner, but every now and then we have to make supply runs to the kitchen to get water and get other things that we have run out of. And without fail, whoever makes the supply run gets cornered. Like it's ridiculous. It's like
drawing straws.
Yeah, we are drawing straws every morning, being like, all right, who's on water duty because this is gonna get. Oh my gosh.
When I worked in an office setting, that's how I felt a lot of the times. When I worked as a teacher, luckily my classroom was way away from everybody else's because nobody wants to be next to a music room because it's loud. But that was so nice. I didn't have to see people except for at lunch. But except for the kids. Kids were fine. It's the adults that always sucked. But yeah, I get you on that one. Beard, number 2 for you.
This entire list just isn't fun to think about.
I'm sorry.
A good majority of it I had to deal with today because we had the launch on the friggin' Galaxy S10, which has not been fun.
Hey, Beard.
In the least.
How much you selling it for?
No.
Fudge.
No. Just no.
I need to take a small mortgage out to get that phone, so...
Yeah, you need a small mortgage for the frickin' foldable phone. Have you frickin' seen that?
Yeah. Is it... Oh, wait, no, okay, yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of. Is the Galaxy... Is it the S10, or is it the Note...
Well, there's the Galaxy Fold.
Right, that's the one that's
like... titled it. That's $2,000.
I was about to say, isn't it like $2,000
Whoa.
or something? Oh, yeah, no, it's ridiculous.
Because it's basically 2 phones stuck together. And that's basically where they ended up getting that price tag from, because the $1,000 phone is now basically the norm. Which I feel like this may as well be my number 2, is why do phone companies make their phones so freaking ridiculously expensive? And in that respect, as I go on this rant, you don't call an economy level phone $750. That doesn't work. No. It doesn't work. People don't buy your phones when they're $750. They'll buy it as a flagship and understand it as a flagship. They do not buy an economy level phone for $750. That's not economy level. I might have feelings. I might have feelings on this. I might have feelings. So my actual number 2... My actual number 2 is when you leave any place a mess. Clean up after yourself. Like, for the love of God, clean up after yourself. I am a big stickler for it, and I will tell somebody, like, if I am at the counter or otherwise, like if I'm working on somebody's phone, for instance, and yes, a lot of this is going to be like largely work related. I understand that I can make a mess because I'm doing like 7 different things at one time. And then I'll end up looking at, I'll look at my coworkers and be like, yo, just leave this here. I'll get to it in a second. I go and I shred my important documents and paperwork, and I come back and I clean up what I have. I am not given the same courtesy by those I work with, and it drives me insane, because the amount of trash and garbage that was listed with phone companies and all the other stuff that we have to deal with. You can take off the plastic wrapper, have another couple of plastic things on the inside of the box you need to take out of and off the phone, and then you end up having the screen protector case box that's just sitting there, and you have 3 people that are doing that same amount of clutter, and all of a sudden your 10-foot long counter is taken up by the shit that your coworkers decide to leave because they're pigs.
And then like the soda bottles.
Oh, even worse. I have a water bottle that I keep in the far corner of the counter because I'm a stickler for it. And I tell everybody else, try to keep it in the same general area, please. Because at that point, then nobody has to like fight on anything. We have our Sharpie and we write on whose drink is whose, and we're fine. Like, that's it. Like, I'm a stickler for organization if I have to be around other people. Now, don't look at the office, don't look at my room, don't look at anything else.
Right.
No, it is an organized, chaotic mess because I understand where everything is, because that's my brain. But when I am at work, if you do not keep things looking respectable for the people that are walking in the door, even though they don't give a shit, versus leaving it a complete pigsty, it aggravates the heck out of me because I have so much else I need to do. Anyway, I feel like this is just getting progressively worse, and my blood pressure is just going up.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm also not.
This is your fault.
I know.
This is entirely your fault.
I totally am aware of that. And I've been thanked a few times in chat already for this episode because you so.
The Trickery to Beards episode.
Yeah, I was going to say, I saw that one, and you may as well go ahead and label it that. Give it the subtext, the one where Beard gets triggered. You may as well have that as like a Bungie subtext.
Top 3 pet peeves, Beard gets triggered edition.
Oh, Lordy.
Oh, man. If we're only to number 2, like, I still haven't... Oh, man. I can't wait to see what your number 1 is, then.
Yeah, no, you don't.
Mm-hmm. So, my number 2 is people who don't use blinkers when they're driving. If you do not use a freaking blinker, or if you're somebody who leaves your blinker on after you turn, you need to have your tires slashed, in my opinion.
I don't even have a problem with people leaving their blinker on. Like,
I do.
I mean, to a degree. Like, there's a couple things, like, because I'm guilty of doing that from time to time. Like, but not using your blinker, or tonight I had someone who was using their right blinker and then started turn left and then went straight.
Right.
I'm like,
that's the one.
Which way are you going?
Me crazy.
Which way? I'm like, I don't care, but you gotta know, you gotta pick a way. Like, you gotta pick a direction.
The funny thing is like, I grew up in Kansas. I grew up in the freaking country. You don't use blinkers in the country because there's no fucking people out there to see it. You just don't. You're alone. But when you're in the city, or even a small town, if there are people who could theoretically see you, you should have your blinkers on when you're getting ready to turn, or you're thinking about turning. Because when you start merging into the fucking lane when I'm there... Sorry. I'm sorry. We're rating for this episode for sure.
Oh my god.
Hey, we can also label it the Morse code episode.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, Green started talking in Morse code. Beep, 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 beep.
God. Pretty much. Everybody gets triggered episode.
Yeah.
All right. I am bracing myself for this last one. Number 1, Blue.
Lack of humility. It's which explains why I'm not like super active on social media, because I don't know if it's, Beard, I know you were joking last top 3 about like the way I was raised and stuff like that, like the psychology of that, and I don't know if that's similar, but like the whole me like culture, like that whole like self-focused type, and I understand that that's my interpretation of it. And I'm sure that there's, Green, you and I've had these conversations, but it feels weird, like it doesn't feel right to me, and it really aggravates me because there's for me, when I see that, it's very narcissistic in my opinion, and it's like the exact opposite of what I've always been taught is what you should be, as far as like what is to be a good person, and what you should try to be is, humble. You should try to just work hard, let your actions speak for themselves. Don't, puff yourself up, basically. Which is, again, why I'm not really super active on social, because I'm like, I don't know what to share on social media. Like, it's weird. Like, it's like, I'm not going to take a picture of the food I'm about to eat. I'm just going to eat the food. Like, by the time it even crosses my mind to do something, it's like, I've already taken care of it. Like, I just, that's the way I operate in my world. But like for me, one of the biggest things is people who are very, I don't want to say arrogant, because it's not really arrogance, but it kind of borderline, it's narcissism, in the sense that there is absolutely no humility at all. Like it's just narcissism. And again, it's something that I have to deal with on a daily basis. And it's not just my office. It's, we have vendors, we have all sorts of people who are clients of ours, clients especially, that are, it's that sense of entitlement that you are owed something just simply because you happen to exist. And it's, you know, with all due respect, no, you don't. Like that's not the case. But yeah, for me, that's one of my big, and it's not really even like, for me, it's not really like a trigger necessarily, but it is something that gets under my skin. And it can lead to me being triggered. It leads to me needing to take a step back and, you know, go somewhere quiet and calm down and not punch someone in the throat.
Need space. Yep. I get that one.
Yeah.
I get that one all too well.
Chat right now is peacocking. Yeah. I mean, and I don't, and again, I agree, like our generation, us three generation, we kind of were on the cusp of the whole internet, social media explosion, really. And so, I mean, like I vividly remember when internet wasn't a constant. Like I remember that. And so I have a different paradigm in which I interact with social media. Then, you know, like my son, my 5-year-old, he's already fluent in YouTube. Like, I mean, he knows ins and outs of like the kids YouTube app that we have. He knows exactly what channels are going, what's going on with what channel creator. I mean, he's 5 and he's already picked up on this stuff. Like, I mean, it's crazy to me that this is, but so the world, I definitely understand there's a different paradigm within that. I don't know necessarily if it's a better I don't know. I just know that for me, it's like, I don't really get, I don't know. I don't understand that particular piece.
Oh, I get you. I really do. That's actually very similar to my number one that we're going to get to here in a bit. Beard.
Ironically, it's basically the exact same thing, which is why I've been so quiet, and I've been trying to like rethink on like another number one if I can. I can't.
Right.
I mean, it encompasses everything, though. Quite frankly, like if you end up thinking so highly of yourself that you could do no wrong and your shit don't stink, then it's a problem. Like that's where you have to effectively step back and say, I'm a human being that bleeds the same way as this other person that is here, and I'm sitting here screaming about them about something that I'm gonna not care about tomorrow morning. Oh no, I didn't get this phone because this happened, and it's entirely the guy behind the counter's fault, which is one of my favorites. The biggest thing, though, like that, as some probably already know, like I've encountered this as well on social media fairly recently within the last several months as well. And I've needed to start just to push a lot of it out. And I'm not saying that, again, I am a perfect human being by any rights. None of us are. But when our general ideas cannot either connect or you're not going to hear me out in any right, then I have no reason to keep you around. In a lot of like full disclosure ideas here, I have no reason to keep you in my life if all you are going to do is complain about the ideas and thoughts that I have, or effectively not give them the time of day and only call back to one extra piece that I might go back to commonly. I don't know. I might not be expressing myself proper.
I think I'm understanding you really well, so I'm hoping others are as well.
Yeah, it's just I think we get so caught up in as many will, you know, especially call like imposter syndrome and whatnot too. That goes into a completely different kind of debate as well. But like social media in general, stepping away from it for just about a full month made a really big difference and impact in like how I kind of view what's going on the internet, like my digital footprint, if you will, of like what really matters or what really mattered to me. And the fact that like I started seeing that all the toxic stuff that was there was generally related towards narcissistic behavior or towards people that felt that they could do no wrong, etc. And I'm just like, you know what? I don't need that in my life whatsoever, because they're not open to thinking in any right outside of the bias that they have. And that word, I think, has cropped up in my head so much more often with like keeping my directness and like where it is that I wanted to go for my recouping of my mental energies, my creative energies and whatnot as well. It's tiring.
Mm-hmm.
It's sickening. And the fact that there are so many that end up pushing that narrative on others, like look at me, believe me, or look at me and understand me and only me. That's not how logic works. That's not how philosophy works. That's not how a court of law works, and it's sickening.
Right.
If you act like that in any way where you cannot think about the other person's perspective at all and prove it logically with simple ideas, your general standpoint is minced. It has no layer to stand on. I know I'm kind of getting a little off topic in this regard, but that narcissistic behavior, the general I don't want to listen to anybody else because I'm right, really just gets on my absolute last nerve.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, I think when all is said and done, like I think here with this community, with mine, I generally foster the ideas that I would like to expand more on rational thought or just general thinking. Like it shouldn't just be like, oh yeah, that was changed because it's just like this. Instead of saying, well, there's 5 other pieces that actually kind of prove this wrong, instead of just calling it a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly that idea behind it is just like, nah, it's totally this. Even though you have 5 other things that could end up proving that wrong by a state of perspective or something else. I know I'm being somewhat vague, but like I've already touched on this as heavy as I can.
No, I get that.
It's just I know I'm on a rant session here. It is a sickening piece of social media, and it's an anxious piece of social media. And I think if many were to end up cutting it out of their lives as like a higher point or otherwise, I think it would end up helping a lot of people, like just mentally and physically, and like circadian rhythm and the whole nine, be able to sleep better, be able to think better, be able to think more openly, and stop the herd mentality too. Just like where we started with this with Blue's comment ended up leading me down this entire tangent, because it really does fall into that same exact thing. And again, why I think it is one of the most disgusting pieces of human life that we have, is not being open-minded.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. I mean, like I was saying, it's kind of my number one as well. Yeah. It's the whole, and this happened to me actually earlier today, just a few hours ago, when I was playing some private Gambit matches. Somebody who was on my team, who I've never played with before, essentially asserted what I should do without like taking any consideration of what my game style may be or anything like that. He just flat out told me, hey, you're going to do this, I'm going to do this, you don't do that right now, you do this later, kind of thing. And it's like, oh, okay, that's all right, whatever, you do you, mister. But it's the assertion of my mentality, my knowledge, my experience is far superior to yours, and so I'm going to tell you how it is. And I can tell you that so many people I know have experienced this in one shape or form. And you don't have to, it's not a woman thing, it's not a man thing, it is a people thing. there are people on either side of the gender that will do this, and it's my brother is actually the one who gets under my skin the worst, because he in his mind is never wrong. And at one point in time, I was driving him down to Oklahoma to my grandpa's house. I was giving him a ride to my grandpa's house, and he told me in the car that my job as a teacher was not viable, that it wasn't important, and that farmers were far superior. And I'm like, excuse me? I about kicked him out of the car and made him walk the rest of the way, but I was a good big sister and took him the rest of the way, and then never offered to give him another ride again because he's a jerk face. He's also the same kid who earlier last week on Sunday told me, I hadn't spoken to him in 2 years, mind you, not because I didn't try, but because he never responded, but decided that he wanted to come up to Colorado and spend a few days with Julie and I, which is fine. It's great. I said that would be great. That would be wonderful. Just so you know, we're closing on our house on Thursday, so things might get a little wonky and I won't be able to necessarily like cater you around. Okay. But I mean, it was and I'm harping on this because it's kind of one of my biggest pet peeves because I deal with it a lot with my family. But he is a good person. He is my brother. He is somebody I do care for. He's just a big jerk face. And like Beard was saying, I don't have to put myself in positions that is going to expose me to him all the time. I will go and spend time with him at holidays, and if he wants to come up, he's more than welcome to. It's just he kind of sucks as a brother in some ways when it comes to that. Little deep, little pet peeve, little, I don't know, salty in some ways, I guess is a way to say it. But yeah. Not sure how to end this one because of all of this.
I mean, I could go on another rant.
I mean,
I think the takeaway is like just empathy. Like I think empathizing with the other is always a super important thing, and that's, you know, to kind of turn it into something more positive is that's the reason why I'm so glad that we have Focus Fire. Because FFC, like, it's not just us, like the community as a whole has been nothing but the exact opposite of everything that we just talked about. They, and Beard, I know your community is, you know, the community that you have over on Discord at least is very similar.
Largely so, or keeping the bad actors in the
right,
chains,
yeah,
if you will.
You have corners that they're allowed to play in, and that's where they stay.
Yes.
But I mean, that's go for it, Green. Sorry.
It's like, but the nice thing is even though you have people who are a little bit more assertive or whatnot, they're listened to, they're respected, they're shown kindness and empathy with that. Now, granted, are they going to be able to run the conversation the whole time? No, because you're going to help guide them and show them logic and whatnot, but they're still given a voice. You're not shutting them out.
Right. And I think that's the thing is like, I think the important takeaway here is that, you know, empathy is very important, and the ability to see things from not just another single person, but multiple points of view is something that even those of us or those who have practiced it and are very good at it still need assistance and still need to practice developing, because it's never going to stop needing to be present. And it's never it's not a skill that you can say, I've mastered that and I don't need to work on it anymore, because there's always going to be a new perspective introduced into the paradigm. And I think, you know, and that's not just applicable to video game, you know, lore, that's applicable to everything. Like that's right. Very, very much a very important life skill that I think people, it's a very difficult life skill to teach. And I think because of that, I think it's kind of fallen on the wayside, unless you're like a really strong empath. which, there are those who are very empathetic towards others, but unless you have that natural ability, a lot of times it kind of gets dropped on the wayside and not really brought up because it's uncomfortable, right? And it's not something that's super easy. And I think that with a lot of people, there is this misunderstanding that entertaining an idea is accepting that idea. And I go back to, and Beard, you and I have talked about this quite a bit. I go back to a really old quote from Aristotle where it's the mark of an educated mind is the ability to entertain an idea without having to accept it. You can
100%
you can entertain an idea. That's how you debate. That is how you have a conversation with someone from a different culture, a different world, really. Is you talk to them and you understand where they're coming from. That doesn't mean that you have to agree with where they're coming from. Everyone has the right to be wrong. But the thing is that right to be wrong does not translate into your right to correct them. They have, now you can show them what you think, but then the thing is that you have to remember is that in the same vein that they have the right to be wrong, you also have the right to be wrong. So, it's a two-way street. And I think that particular piece is, I think really where we're coming from what I'm hearing at least, is that's the biggest part for this number one pet peeve of ours. And I think that for a large percentage of, the Destiny community, especially the Focus Fire community, especially Beard's community, Mylan's community has been that way too. From what I've seen from these different lore communities, there is a very large number of people who are very good at that. And that is very rare. And that's something to be very proud of. But that's also something that you continuously need to practice and improve on. And I think that I'm not trying to harp on people, but I think that, we are doing a very good job. And I think we shouldn't rest on our laurels. We keep doing a good job is all I'm saying. But
keep humble. Don't think that you're going to know everything because somebody will likely know something more than you. And don't be a jerk.
My
don't be a dick.
My old boss used to always tell me, "Stay humble, hustle hard."
That was my coach that would say that to me.
It totally. Means plenty of different things as you get older. That's for darn sure. But yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to pick a topic that's not so heavy.
Okay.
For next week.
Please have mercy on my voice.
This one is from Parker Schilling. It is top 3 midnight snacks.
Oh, that is a good one.
Yeah. It will be very interesting because...
But does it have to be snacks that you can only enjoy at midnight?
That's what I'm having problems with because I don't eat at night. So I've been avoiding this one, but it's a nice simple one for everybody. I will figure something out for myself because it may just be drinks that I have at midnight because I don't eat late at night, but we'll make it work. Oh my goodness. We're going to go something nice and light. Thank you guys for joining us for top 3 as always. And gosh, I'm just struggling to get out of this one. It's just all the heavy topic. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. It was something totally different for us to be able to talk about something a little bit more personal in a lot of respects. And we hope that you join us next week. And remember, everybody likes a list. Dang. I wasn't expecting it to go emotional. I knew it was going to be heated at times, but emotional was not something I was expecting it to do. Words are hard. I need more coffee. I'll be right back.
Okay. Also fixed your fire alarm.
Fix my fire alarm?
Yeah, it just sounds like you got a fire alarm or something. I don't know if there's something feedback on the
Oh, but... Julie's cleaning.
Oh,
because she's wanting to.
That would do it.
I think it's a vacuum cleaner. No, probably. I know what it is. It's the air mattress. She's deflating the air mattress. Okay. I'll go tell her to stop.
No, it's okay.
Be right back.
It's not too bad.
You're breaking the glass.
Where did that start? Yeah.
I didn't know if you could hear it because she's been packing and stuff tonight too. Packing up kitchen stuff.
Yeah, so I can hear it now that Beard's brought it to my attention.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
That's just my ears. Like, I can't help it. Like, that's just how sensitive they are.
He's got bat ears. All right, I'll be right back. I think it's done.
What about Itsy Bitsy Spider? What about Recluse?
The Itsy Bitsy Spider. It's the what is it? The SMG.
Yeah, Recluse. I once heard a tale.
Shax is obsessed with it. I immortalized it. I'm like, oh god.
I once heard a tale about an itsy bitsy spider that once climbed a water spout. I wanted to immortalize it.
Oh man.
Oh, good times.
All right. Back.
Go away.
No.
Right.
You love me. At least I hope you do.
I'll just stay silent.
It's like awkward silence. I'm just sitting here like, I know he's doing it to be a butthead, but...
You love me. I know you do.
Cricket, Z loves me.
Cricket.
Yay. I love you too, Z.
At least you have one person that likes you.
I've got two. I've got a wife, damn it. And I'm pretty sure she likes me.
I was going to say, are you sure about that assumption?
Sweet.
I couldn't even say that one with a straight face.
We tolerate you, jerk. Rexy. Oh my goodness, no. It was, God. Relationships are all about give and take, guys. 100%. Oh my goodness.
Get back in there.
How's? Are you running strike still?
No, my glasses broke. Well, not broke. The earpiece decided to like slide off. Like, no, no, don't do that.
That's not good. Rip. Not settling. Jesus, Ziona. I mean, you know what's funny is actually Julie and I were talking about that a little bit this morning because my brother, the same brother that came up here, is very particular about what he wants in a wife.
I can only guess.
It's not things that you would necessarily think that are good, wholesome qualities necessarily.
So like I said, I can only guess.
He's special. He's a special boy. He wants a woman who will move to Southwest Kansas, which is like the nicest part of it. As far as
Isn't
like his
that the only part of it?
Mostly. Because he wants.
That's already setting a bar pretty high.
Yeah, it really is. Like to move to Southwest Kansas where there's nothing. He had a nice girlfriend who was super sweet. She and him were really good together. She helped him like come out of his shell. It was great. She didn't want to move to Southwest Kansas. Broke his heart, so he broke up with her. So I'm like, all right, you were a dumbass, but whatever.
Sounds about right.
Yep. There's a nice part of Kansas. There are nice parts. Few and far between, but there are nice parts.
Yo, Blue.
Jesus-y.
What's up?
Do you happen to have a Switch or keep up with them at all?
I don't have one, but I might be looking at them.
Yeah.
because of Pokemon Sword and Shield.
Okay.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
That's good. That's good reason right there.
Ignoring the Lego backpacks, which are just atrocious. But did you see Ben and I, my brother and I? We had like a day-long gift battle of backpacks.
Oh Lord.
And then there was the oh my god, what are you doing with your life?
Who even are you?
Pokemon I never played it. Like, I played Pokemon Go. Does that count?
No. I mean, no.
I watched the TV show.
No, that's definitely doesn't.
That doesn't count, but what did Cade just do? I think Cade just fell up the stairs.
Your dog?
Mm-hmm.
I never got into it. I never got into Game Boy, surprisingly. Like, Tetris was about the only thing I would play on that.
Yeah, I mean, I had Tetris on... Tetris was one of my favorite games on Game Boy, but I mean, like, the original Pokemon is just so much fun. And it was fun in a way that it was simple, but still a ton of fun.
I just never got into it.
It was a very heavy RPG, or it wasn't very heavy RPG, but it was much more RPG than some of the game. Well, at the time, it was very heavy RPG for what it was. But, you know, looking back now, it would not be considered a heavy RPG at all. But like because it was one of the first ones on the Game Boy, at least, that you really had to compartmentalize what was going on. Like, you still had well, no, because Game Boy didn't have tactics or anything like that. That was all on the consoles. So like that, yeah. I mean, it would be one of the first, at least one of the first ones that I remember. That was like you actually built up a team, and you had there was actual there was a lot of different strategies that you could do. And obviously, as the generations have, because I think we're on 8th or 9th generation now. Like, as the generations have gone, they've gotten much more complex. But
the thing is that's the same kind of thing as like Magic the Gathering, as far as like you build up your team. Essentially, you build your deck. And I can't play
MTG today. Like the card game oh my god, the card game that exists today is like nothing like what it was when I was playing.
Right. But it's that same kind of, you have to figure out your own strategy, and I never played it enough to learn the strategies, learn what I like to play. So I just kind of gave up on them.
Well, I'm gonna say, as soon as I found my my good shadow deck, that was it, because it ended up getting banned. Like,
that's because it's a
great
shadow decks. I was the one that played.
Look,
I would either
tell me other ways to beat Counter Blue, okay?
Because that was the deck that I played.
Gee, how am I not surprised, you dick?
So, serious question from chat: did you play red or blue?
Blue.
Purple.
I went red. My sister went blue.
I always gravitated towards the water starters. So when we had
the water starter this time
looks amazing. He can go invisible. It's so cool.
Yeah, he reminds me of Chameleos from Monster Hunter. Whole reason I want him.
And then Sobel, it's Sobel, right? Sobel's the water, and then who's the bunny?
I can't remember the bunny's name for the life of me, but I think the grass one is Grookey or something.
Yeah, it's the monkey. It's like a monkey. Score Bunny. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
So there's a bunny, there's a monkey, and then Sobol's like, I don't know. It looks like a tadpole, but I don't know what they're trying to.
It looks very much like a baby like a baby lizard, like a baby chameleon,
like a mud dog.
Like a mud dog, yeah, almost. I don't know. Yeah, Newt. There we go. Yeah. That's a really good idea.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm excited to see where they're going. I'm excited to see where
they're going. I don't know if they'll do the frog again, because if they did frog, then they would have a Mudkip all over again with like Marshtomp and whatnot.
Oh, I like
but
Mudkip.
I don't know. I love Mudkip. Mudkip is awesome.
Who was the other one? There was Mudkip, Squirtle. Who was the one that was after Squirtle? God, Totodile.
Crickets.
That's right, Totodile. Wasn't Totodile after Squirtle? I mean, I know Totodile was after Squirtle, but wasn't he the one that was immediately after Squirtle?
Yeah, he was from Johto.
He was a cool one.
These words mean something.
Well, they should, considering they're actual regions of Japan, gosh darn it.
Not that.
Anyway, the thing I was going to actually tell you about, they have Kirby from the NES as one of the games for the Switch.
Oh, really?
Online.
They're also getting Xbox Game Pass.
Still a rumor.
Yeah.
It's like it's sounding more and more plausible, but it's still
like
a rumor.
it's one of those things where I was explaining this to one of the people I work with. I'm like, it's like they put them out as rumors, and then if no one's interested, they're like, oh well, we never verified that, so.
Yeah.
But then if people are like losing their mind, they're like, oh, that's a good idea. Let's just make sure that happens.
Yeah, I'm gonna say suddenly like Nintendo and Microsoft start talking, and you're just like, what? Hang on, what just happened?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
that's nightmare fuel.
Sonic Live. Oh, the texture.
The nightmare fuel.
You know you love the texture.
No, God, it's
the
so
fur.
wrong. It's so wrong.
He's got major calves too.
He's got major everything. He's like the most disproportionate figure. All right, so
my goodness.
Exploring the Reef.
Yes, let's do this.
Now that we're 30 minutes away from the original ending.
Shh.
All right. Here we go. Welcome back to episode 160 of Focus Fire Chat, recorded live on March 8th over on twitch.tv/FocusFireChat. As always, want to give a big shout out to our live chat here with us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us once again. Our topic for tonight's episode is going to be a look at a general exploration of the Reef. But first, let's run through a quick introduction of those on the show for tonight. As always, this is your host, Blue Crew 86. Next up, we have our own master of social media, the one and only Green-Eyed Music Lover. Green, I hope you're doing well. How's the week treated you so far?
I'm a little sore, but I got a massage today, so that's always good. For those of you who are not keeping up with me on social media, it is okay. This would be a lot more weird if I just left it. It'd be very weird if I just left it there. But
I need an adult.
Julie and I are moving into the house this weekend. There's the explanation that was missing from the initial statement.
Chat.
I'm not looking at chat.
Context.
Good God. It's been, as you can tell, it's been a week. I've had to do a lot of painting. I ripped up carpet in 3 hours for the place, and we painted it the next day, and then it's just been one thing after the other. I've been painting all week long and just doing a lot of house renovation type stuff. And we actually move tomorrow. So, yeah, it's been a busy week, but it's been good. And I even got to play a little bit of the new Gambit type, which I know that Blue is so not said sarcastically at all.
What? I don't love it. Anyways, rounding out the usual team, we have our good buddy, the lore content cop himself, Beard Grizzly. Beard, how are you doing?
My throat hurts still from more things with context. From after our friggin' chat last week with Nier and whatnot, my throat is still just not back. I'm really surprised, like, how much that episode destroyed me.
Oh, just keep going.
You know what? I'm really happy that Blue is feeling this way, because if there's anybody that can make Blue happy, I'd really like for it to be me. You guys can take that however you want.
Wow. I imagine there's going to be some like fan fiction happening with just some random slash fiction. Let's not make that a thing, please. I mean,
Cole already got a hold of his warlock and the ghost, so you know.
That's true. Yep. Oh my gosh, that was the best freaking comic ever.
At the moment that she said, I really want to put this on Twitter, but I feel like I would offend you in some way if I did. I was like, Cole, who the heck are you talking to here? Did you forget for a second? Like, go! I don't have a freaking image to keep up here. Go for it. Like, what are you talking about? I'm not that much of a prude.
Oh my goodness! Context for this, by the way, go check out Bad Destiny Joke on Twitter. It's its own Twitter now, and yeah, I'll let you tell the story.
So what you're telling me is this show's subtext is context.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just making sure we had that right. Yeah, there was a little bit of a joke that was going on between Cole and I, because she, for one episode, she had voiced my ghost in Guardian School, and she has held that over my head. I don't know for how long now.
Mm-hmm.
And every now and again, it has these funny moments where it becomes relevant again, and suddenly the context matters. But the whole general idea behind this comic was kind of hilarious, because it was basically, if you side with the Vanguard, I will do something to you. For the sake of kids and already probably crossing a few dozen lines, I will let you guys go and check it, but I think it was hysterical. And it was just like the reaction between me and her, I think, was it's just one of those genuine moments between Cole and I where it's just a lot of fun. And we were very happy to share that moment with you guys besides, because I think it was hilarious. I mean, and it seemed like it really got everybody got a kick out of it, so that was good.
Kind of got to be a little bit of an overshare if you've seen the drawn up comic that she's put out.
Yeah, no, trust me, I did. I saw where I saw how many reactions it generally got, and I was just like, well, I knew people were gonna have fun with it because I know it's Cole and she makes some good funny jokes, but this is ridiculous.
It's good times. Cole stuff is great.
I put the link in chat.
Good, thank you. I may have already messaged her and been like, we're talking about you on the show right now. And she's like, what? Why?
Because
we love you.
Because we can. Oh, man. Well, I know there wasn't a question to the community this week. So we'll go through our standard intro notes real quick and then jump right into the conversation. So this week for Lost Lore, I didn't have anything. Green, did you want to talk about anything in particular, or do you want to just jump right into the Reef?
I think as far as like Lost Lore or things that are forgotten about, I think the thing that we can talk about is the actual outpost, the Vestian outpost, because it's been so long since we've actually been there.
Mm-hmm.
The outpost was set up, and the funny thing is like we always kind of assumed there was a throne room there because there was, but it wasn't Mars' permanent throne room. And that is not something, I don't remember if they ever really clarified that until much later.
They kind of did, because one of the first explanations of the Vestian outpost was that it was a filter point for the reef on the sun side of the asteroid belt that everything went through. So it was always kind of explained as like an antechamber to Vesta, which was where the heart of the reef was. So I mean, like, I guess the short answer is no, they never specifically said that. But I mean, if you follow that train of thought, it kind of would make sense that that's not the actual throne room.
Right. But a little bit of what happened to the Vestian Reef after Mara and everything that happened, that would definitely not necessarily be common knowledge unless you read the lore right now, because they don't ever make mention per se. Is there, I mean, you see him show up, but you don't see how much damage he does to that outpost, do you? And I'm speaking of course,
Aldrin. No, but you do. There is so like you have the clip where he's burning it down,
right?
But there is the piece in the Forsaken Prince, I believe, where he shows up and he tricks the Royal Guard. Because he uses the, oh God, what was the term? The blink. Oh gosh, man. It's when you're expecting something and something else happens and it like distracts you from the reality of what's happening. He basically tricks the Royal Guard into letting him into the throne room with the kings, or the House of Dusk, basically. And that's where
it's kind of like what live chat's doing to me right now.
Safe word. But yeah, so like, and then there was because that was the gunfight in which like they couldn't aim at him because of the just long-standing tradition of not harming the royalty. But he had no problem. He had no problem picking him off and shooting. Like he pretty much just. It seemed like that outpost pretty much gets gutted and destroyed.
It does in the lore cards, at least, for sure. Because like they, as far as like the hangar and stuff, I don't know. But the throne room and any of the paladins contained therein,
right? Yes, they do.
Were destroyed.
Now, to be clear, though, we don't know, is the throne room a part of the outpost? Like, is it actually attached? Do you think it? For those of us who were on Destiny 1, there was the like antechamber type area in the back of the, because it was a social space.
It was next to the Cryptarch.
Right. Yeah. It was between Varix and, was it the Crypt? Yeah. Between Varix and Ives. That like round place where the frames were and the guards. Do you think that was the entryway into the throne room?
That's what it always seemed like, because there were two guards set up there. But I mean, as far as having confirmation of that, we don't necessarily know. But after you get to the reef the first time in D1, you are released back into orbit. So it may not be, you're not necessarily released into the outpost right away.
Right. Yeah. That
we
was
don't
my
get to
only
the
thought
outpost
too.
until later.
But yeah, so the Vestian outpost was always meant as kind of a filter point for basically, it seems like basically the city, because it was specifically called out as being the sun. Hang on, let me make sure I say that. Sun side of the asteroid belt. It was the filter point for the reef and the Vestian web, which was the heart of the reef that was built around the asteroid for Vesta. So
real asteroid, by the by.
Yes, real asteroid. Yeah. And I believe, and Beard, correct me here if I'm incorrect, but I believe every asteroid that's specifically called out is an actual asteroid.
Yes, actually, the large majority of what we've actually seen, unless it's like a non specifically stated as like a created rock, or,
right, fair. Like the tangled,
obviously,
the tangled shore is obviously not correct, like not legit, but like Cybele and Forvesta, Vega.
I gotta say, Ceres is one of them. Mm-hmm. We'll end up having Nessus that will get thrown into it.
Right.
We otherwise have like Maki Maki show up in a couple of things, along with a couple others that sort of exist.
Hygeia,
but there are, yep, Hygeia's in there as well. There are several that you can start to kind of piece through. Palas is another one that you'll hear a lot of as well. I believe that's 2 Palas.
Yeah, I think that a lot of them have it's a numeric and then a name.
Well, and that's how the asteroid designation works, of course.
Right.
But yeah, that's how NASA has and JPL have classified them for years, and even then have adopted a lot of them just to ensure that they can kind of figure out where most of our spacefaring objects and whatnot have kind of popped up or cropped up over the years. Because we've been discovering a lot of them since realistically like the 1500s, and we just never realized it.
Right.
Anyway, long story short, yes, they are real rocks in space. If you go ahead and look them over, you'll find that there's a good majority of them that in Destiny are accurately there. This is to stress the idea too. Sorry, Green.
No, you're okay.
To stress the idea of science fantasy with Destiny as well, because largely it's still based off of a lot of general topics that you can think of, but it can also play with a lot of those thinkings and ideas. For example, real fast too, the Awoken have a gravity hammer that they use to like throw around asteroids. Well, now my question in my mind is, wait, how many asteroids did we actually lose in our designation system now because of the Awoken? They're literally asteroid murderers. Anyway,
are you mad at me for it?
They built the high.
Yeah,
that was one of my favorite pieces of like random lore. Was like, hi, or hey, we see you, or something like that. And it was like, I'm like, oh my god,
that was out of ships though, wasn't it?
Yeah,
that
it was built.
Like, it was
they chained together Golden Age ships to say hello.
Yup.
I'm like, oh
let
my
it be
god,
known that the Awoken have a sense of humor.
It is a really crazy sense of humor. But it exists.
I mean, space elves. You gotta. Z does say that every mentioned asteroid actually does exist, but there are a few issues with dimensions that are given and trajectories. But that's really the only thing.
Question: is amethyst considered an asteroid?
Never actually looked.
No, it's considered a stone.
Thank you, smartass.
Blue, I will punch you.
Jesus.
Yes.
Reason I'm asking, since Blue is being a butthead right now, is there is a location that gets destroyed in Awoken lore that is called Amethyst. And I don't know if that is
one of the places that gets destroyed.
Right.
I don't think so, because I've never actually taken that as an asteroid. I've always taken that as a station, because there are other stations that kind of exist, like one that we've talked about kind of in the past called Bamberga. Bamberga is centered around Palas, but we never get a designation if Bamberga is an asteroid. It is not. Amethyst is also not listed as an asteroid. It would be odd if they kind of named an asteroid Amethyst anyway, because it generally doesn't fit the pattern of naming conventions. Usually it's like Greek names, or you'll end up having Norse mythology. I don't know why I just like blanked so hard here. You'll have like even Swedish mythology. You'll end up having like Native American. Like they pull from so many different lines and past histories, but amethyst just being a rock and already having it as like a geological naming convention that we have, it would have had to have been named amethyst like back in the 1500s if that were the case for it to carry over.
Right.
Just to kind of stress, I think, how that would have gone.
Well, and
that being...
Oh, go for it. No, go.
That being said, I think we're up to around like I think our general convention is like 40,000 some space celestial objects that we have that are tracked at the moment that are named as well. So that should give you the amount of tools that the Awoken as well kind of has to sort of work with and play with each other. And even then, if we were to kind of look at what Z was talking about with the ideas of trajectory and whatnot being in play, again, remember that science fantasy idea, as well as also taking a gravity hammer that would move things around and whatnot. It plays with these weird concepts of how those figures and celestial bodies can move.
You mean like the gravity hammer that captured Skolas?
Yeah, or the one that like slammed down on top of remnants of the wolf fleet. Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah, I don't know what led me down this tangent other than like if we're talking about the reef as a whole, their general vicinity is out more on the borders of our system, pretty heavily in fact, because that's about where like Palas and Vesta are, and it's farther out than what we generally would consider, especially with like where we've gone as a whole as well.
Further out. Okay, so let me ask you this as far as a science clarification. Yeah. Is it further out? Because our asteroid belt lies between Mars and Jupiter, correct?
Our asteroid belt with something like Ceres and whatnot, yes. So keep that in mind, at least in that regard. So like it's the between Mars and Jupiter is where we have our main asteroid belt, where a good majority of the ones that we are looking at, however, like for Vesta, they generally reign in the Kuiper belt, and that is where I think a lot of earlier general like theorists on the Awoken and whatnot kind of flubbed, because again, the Kuiper belt is actually where on like the far edge in with Pluto and whatnot. Like, that's where Pluto resides.
Pew pew.
So that's just to kind of like call that out as a whole. We're not talking about the inner asteroid belt here. We are looking at the Kuiper belt, and then subsequently the Oort cloud, which makes up a larger distinction of even more celestial bodies that kind of hang up in space and whatnot. This is to say that like the distance that we're covering is past Neptune in a lot of rights, or could also deviate into Neptune a little bit. That's the problem with the Kuiper belt and like how asteroids and whatnot move as a whole. Physics as a general idea, they get caught in different gravity wells, and of course each of the planets, especially when you start talking Saturn or Neptune or otherwise, are these large bodies that have large gravitational pulls. So if these asteroids kind of fall into those gravity wells, they can get thrown around, unless something lashes them together and their gravity becomes counter to what the gravity of, say, Neptune would be. In which case, then, it doesn't get pulled around quite as much. One that I'm thinking of, actually, I think Palas, actually, 2 Palas falls into that problem because it goes back and forth between, like, where or how some of these designate objects are. Like, Anphelion is like farther out past Neptune and pretty well inside the Kuiper belt, or at least it's presumed. But it's Periphelion, where it's closer to the sun, can actually be as close, if I recall right, to Jupiter.
Okay.
So its orbit, its general orbit, is so weird and so odd in the way that it kind of handles. That's also what led to theories like the Nemesis star theory, To kind of quote another very prominent Destiny weapon that everybody kind of thought of, that was a brown dwarf star that was said to possibly be orbiting our system and actually would like fall back in every 50,000 years, and basically cause like the extinction level events that we kind of are used to seeing, it seems, every 50,000 years on planet Earth. That was the going rate or going idea of why that was even happening. I don't know why I really got this far down the rabbit hole. But it really is just to kind of showcase like the space that you're in with the reef is a chaotic mess to begin with. And to highlight that factor, I think for the to highlight that chaoticness behind the reef and behind the Awoken is actually one of their best traits in a lot of rights. And the being out in that asteroid belt and where it lays at, where it generally sits, makes a lot of sense for how them as a species or race kind of are at this point. It makes a ton of sense. And it's a quaint little analogy, I think, that they sort of threw in there. Anyway, I think I'm done talking about space rocks for now.
I'm actually enjoying it. It's nice to get some actual discussion about it because I think it is something that can be easily misunderstood as far as the location of where the Awoken are. Since grade school, you learn that the asteroid belt is between blank and blank, Mars and Jupiter. And that's what you learn. And so when you think about the fact that the Awoken live within this asteroid field, essentially, in various locations, it's easy to forget that, no, there's a lot of asteroids out there, not just the ones between the two planets.
Well, and even then, that's the ironic thing about the main asteroid belt that we have. A large majority of those were not, they weren't bright enough, you could say, for us to pick up on like where they existed or what they were. Ceres was one of the odd objects out because it had its own spherical shape. And I love the fact that Bungie calls to Ceres and how like the Fallen go around it, and it's like this big and important piece to them because they probably looked at it and mistook it for the Traveler to begin with. But the general principle of that asteroid belt, we had no idea that our inner system was that volatile.
Right.
We had zero idea that we had a failed planet and it may have possibly been due to Jupiter's gravity. And we had no idea that Jupiter was effectively that big because it was placed so much closer in our system by early astrophysicists because of how big it was. So that should just kind of give you this example of like how chaotic the inner system and outer systems generally are. But yeah, in grade school, you bring up a great point, Green. You hear so much about the main asteroid belt, but you never, I don't think growing up ever, I remember hearing about the Kuiper belt or the Oort cloud or the fact that there's that much out there. I would have been so much more interested in hearing something like that in early grade school to say, how much is out there? And all of a sudden you like have your interest peaked in this different way that effectively says like there's this much unknown that exists in our system that may have been picked up by our sun's gravitational pull that is uncatalogued and cannot be catalogued to a large degree yet because we don't have the technology to figure it out. We also don't know how deep the Oort cloud goes. It could be anywhere from like what they said about 0.5 light years away from the sun, all the way up to like 3 light years away from the sun. Like that's the theory at this point with like how large this segment of space may end up being. That's big. That's really big. And the general vicinity of like having all of those rocks and comets and everything that kind of exist within them is just it's mind blowing to think that there is all that space that's out there. And I ran with a couple different theories, of course, on like how Aphrodite was going to come back because of the comet, and the comet was going to steal our light, and it turns out it was Gaul. Anyway, I think I'm fascinated by space, if you can't tell.
I love it. It's nice to be able to talk about it, because the Reef is a location in space that we can kind of sort of map out. Now, granted, to say that we know exactly what the Awoken territory would be in relation to our own understanding of space would be a gross injustice, because we have ideas of where a lot of the Awoken are, at least military based,
right?
Because of the Reef Wars and because of some of the stuff we got in D2. But as far as like civilian locations of those who remained with Mara, we don't know how many. We also don't know if there are civilian locations or if they're all military based or outpost of some sort. We do know of a mining facility that got destroyed. I believe that was Amethyst, wasn't it? If I'm just remembering off the top of my head.
That was the one I believe that Petra was largely involved with. Yes, yeah. I think that would be Amethyst.
Yeah. Poor Petra.
Yeah, but I'm going to say that's where we largely know that story from, I think.
There's multiple cities, hidden cities like the Dreaming City. That's true.
Yeah.
Thank you, chat. But as far as like how many of the Awoken people are actually left right now that are considered Reef-born, not necessarily Earth-born, it's very difficult to tell. And it's difficult to tell Earth-born as well. But I think that is one heck of a lost lore / we got into the demographics and the locations of the Awoken people. But do we want to talk about the people themselves?
Yeah. So
I was content talking about space rocks more, but okay.
We could talk about space rocks.
We'll come back. We'll come back to space rocks. Believe me, we're going to come back to space rocks.
I know it'll come up at one point or another.
I mean, I guess the quickest way to kind of jump into it is just looking at like the information from Destiny 2, you know, how much it's furthered the story of the Awoken. We have like tales of time spent within the pocket universe known as the Distributary, the escape, which Mara orchestrated to return to Sol. And then kind of to run through a kind of a quick history of that. Basically, following that return, the Awoken underwent a schism. So you have a split between them, creating the groups that we identify as the Earthborn and the Reef-born Awoken, which you've heard Green was mentioning just now. It was also around this point in time that Mara basically stepped into the midst of the war between the last city of humanity and the Fallen, taking out the threat of the House of Wolves before they could reach Earth to support their brethren during the Battle of Twilight Gap. Now, I will call out that we don't know the time space between their return and that event. So I do want to make sure that is stated clearly. We don't know how long after their return the Reef Wars began. It kind of feels like it was pretty soon, but to be clear, we don't know for certain. So, what is the Reef? What we know about the Reef is that it has always been explained as a debris field in orbit within the asteroid belt of Sol. The Reef is a mysterious realm that straddles the boundary between the far edge of the traveler's influence and the darkness of the outer system. We do know that the foundational pieces of the structures existed pre-Golden Age, but the level at which that foundation ends and the Awoken restructuring begins is currently unknown. We know a little bit about their society. It's a matriarchal society, and the Awoken of the Reef really only bow to their queen, Mara Sov, though currently the selective deference has created a bit of friction among the group because Mara's apparent death during the initial moments of the Taken War. It was not until our Guardian, visited that we see the relationship between the city and the Reef kind of moving into something close to being open and dare I say friendly, though I hesitate to say that word. And this relationship would actually very shortly following that become tested by the events of the Taken War and the rise of the Forsaken. And that kind of gives us a primer, if you will, into where we see the reef today. Obviously, there is a lot more nuanced dealings going on, but as far as like a history, that's really, I mean, we didn't know a lot of this stuff in Destiny 1. We kind of had pieced together some stuff. We had made assumptions about other stuff, and most of those assumptions were pretty well grounded, and they did kind of get confirmed with the Destiny 2 information. But especially with the opening of the Dreaming City, we had a lot confirmed. We had a very significant portion of information that was written by I think it was Seth that did most of the Awoken books, if I remember correctly.
He did Martiana and I believe Awoken of the Reef, if not also Dreaming City.
Right, and I want to say that was predominantly his project, and so I mean, amazing work there, and it does. We had just an immense amount of information that was given to us with Destiny 2 about specifically the Awoken, in the same vein that we're now kind of getting that information about Shin and the early city-esque, early Earth post
Dark
collapse,
Age.
Dark Age, I guess, yeah. We're getting a lot of clarity on these big focal points that often will, fragment into even more questions, of course, but these big points we are getting clarity. Now, when we talk about the reef, the other thing that is really important, and I kind of touched on this, is the society of the reef. And this is really, you see a very, very sophisticated society, both politically, military, you see, and even economy, really. And that really stems from the fact that you have to remember that the Awoken, to be honest, the Awoken remember the Golden Age. They remember a lot more than currently, probably, I would argue, anyone else in the game as far as where they came from.
Are you talking Golden Age isn't within the distributary? Because do they remember once they're
Well,
awoken?
I guess that's true. They were awoken, right? Yeah, you're right. That's a very good point. I know.
Because Mara might remember.
I think, yeah, you're right, because they were reborn. No, that's correct.
Yeah.
You're correct. Okay, that's correct. They do have ship records from the Yang Wei, but yes, you're right. Okay, so, but I mean, still, they have, as far as sophistication, they also have however many thousands of years they were in the distributary to develop upon when they did return to the reef.
Yes.
So
and they did have the U-Tech that was based off of the Golden Age technology,
right? And
as well.
I would argue that, and they developed off of it. Not only did they have the U-Tech, they actually built off of it and surpassed it. So there's also that where that kind of goes into, I believe, the gravity hammers and even the harbingers, maybe, all that. But to kind of look at the society, that kind of brings me to the other thing that I wanted to talk about, was basically the major factions that are in play here. Predominantly what we see in game is obviously going to be military. We are much more aligned with, what's going on with their military, because that's kind of our interaction as guardians of the city with the reef. That's where we kind of interact with them. We do have mentions of other groups, but we don't know much about them. So I'm going to start with the military piece, because that's the one that we do have quite a bit on, and that's really going to be the Paladins. The Paladins. So the thing with Paladins is that Paladins, there are 7 of them technically. Currently, there are only 4, and that's because of the Reef Wars and the Battle of Saturn. Between those two battles, those two wars, really, because Battle of Saturn was really the starting point of the Taken War. Between those two wars, they have lost a lot of their paladins. So the paladin
lost a lot of everybody.
Well, that's fair. Yeah, Battle of Saturn did kind of, what was it, a third of
as well as Techians and everything.
Well,
yeah.
No, I mean, just like in general, I think, wasn't it like nearly a third? It was an immense amount of loss on the Reef's part. But the Paladins are currently, so there's 7 of them, or 7 positions, and they're broken into 3 kind of primary groupings, if you will. There's the Royal Armada Paladins, which they are going to be the ones who lead the Corsairs and the Vestian Guard. Normally there are 4. Currently we only have 3 of them. Then we have the Royal Army Paladins, which exactly kind of, they are the leaders of the Royal Army. So the Armada is kind of the fleet, the Air Force, if you will, and the Army is the standing army. And then the last Paladin is going to be the Queen's Guard, and this is going to basically be the person who is responsible for that specialized guard of the Queen. There is usually only 1 Paladin for that, but there is currently no Paladin. Probably because it's probably going to be the last one filled currently because there is no queen at the moment. So to go back, the Royal Armada Paladins that we have right now are Hallam Finn, Kamala Rior, and Leona Brill. I don't know, Green, did you want to touch on anyone in particular with those?
The thing that I want to kind of touch on when it comes to any of the paladins in general is that the paladins, you think of it as like a ranking system like we have in our own military. Paladins are a higher rank than the Corsairs.
Yeah, they're like the generals.
Corsair. Yeah, you become a Corsair first, and then you step into the Paladin as you're like if you rank up high enough. Fun fact: there are male Paladins, which means there are likely going to be male Corsairs as well, because you had to be a Corsair most likely before you become a Paladin. Hallan is male, and Pavel as well, which is one of the later ones. But
yeah,
as far as these guys, Hallam, Kamala, and Leona, Hallam was primarily brought up in D1. Most of these were actually brought up in D1. Kamala has been an important person within D2. She was there at the tower whenever she was the one who called to Zavala to say that the Reef needed help, essentially. And Zavala said, "We will stand with the Reef." That's that card. Kamala was the one who went and did that. Leona, she was primarily a D1. Let's see here. Oh, fun fact about Leona. Leona, there's one item, the Prodigal Cuirass, that mentions she wanted Petra Venge to take over the queenship after the events of the Taken King, which is very weird. Obviously, Petra did not want that, nor did she even attempt to that or even went anywhere near that, because that would have been a whole big mess to explain if Mara came back like that. But that is her big thing. And like Blue mentioned, we actually don't know who the 4th one is currently. But do you want to talk about the former ones, or?
Yeah, so the former ones are Abra Zyre and Imogen Reif. Both of those are female. Imogen was a very big figure in the Reef Wars, and that's actually how we got Hallam. Hallam was Imogen's basically protege, and when Imogen was killed pursuing, I can't remember who it was, but Hallam basically took over after Imogen died. Abra was the Battle of Saturn. She died during that battle. So the empty spot was Abra's, and then I'm assuming they just haven't gotten around to filling it just yet. And like I said, Imogen was the one that she was very prominent during the Reef Wars. She had a lot going on as far as outsmarting the Fallen. She was very good at that.
She was after a lot of the more cunning ones. Versus and Drevis and Vexus.
I think Drevis was the one that finally got her. Yes, if I remember. But it was near the end of the Reef Wars. Like Imogen was, she was very good at what she did. And again, these are the ones that are the direct leaders of the Corsairs and the Vestian Guard. Corsairs they take the name from the Corsairs from the Distribuary, but they are much more formal than it feels like than the ones in the distributary. Blah, 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 blah. Distributary. Thank you. The Corsairs in the distributary were more mercenary-like, and like you definitely get the feeling that the Corsairs in the Reef are they have that same kind of general feel, but here you actually see the Paladins as being much. It kind of feels like the Paladins are a little bit more in control of what the Corsairs are doing, and that's where
also they're also the ones who tend to do the hunts. They're the ones who direct the hunts. Petra worked underneath some of these as a Corsair when she became a Corsair.
Right. So. And I would agree that you're probably going to see a good number of male Corsairs, because that's kind of I think that's not a uncommon thing for that. The fact that there's male Paladins, I think, is the rare thing, which actually kind of brings us to the Royal Army Paladins with Pavel. Pavel was a Royal Army Paladin who was in the Battle of Saturn. He died there. And then we did have some of the Royal, so the Royal Army is the boots on the ground, right? They're the ones that are going to be probably more of the police, the military police-esque feeling, which is where you get the three that were assassinated by Pyrrha, which are Teloser, Loris Pole, and Hollis Esso. And the reason why it doesn't surprise me that we see, them being assassinated here is because, again, I kind of get the feeling that they're the equivalent of the security force for the Awoken. So you're going to, unrest, you send in the Paladins or the Royal Army.
I would also venture to say that the Royal Army Paladins, at least Pavel, went with, they're kind of like the guard detail for the Techians.
Yes.
Because Pavel went with Keldavaj, and that card, the Bamberger card, is where Pavel sees the glowing creature on the exterior of his ship before they do the near light speed jump. And both Pavel and Kelda were put into basically isolation for about a month. After they returned.
And I think Pavel was killed because he was on the ship with the Techuans, if I remember. I might be incorrect on that, but I kind of got I seem to remember him being connected to the
Techians.
I want to call it the Ketch. Was it a Ketch? I keep wanting to call it the Ketch that Mara and the Techians were on.
Her flagship, essentially.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's technically designated as a Ketch.
Was it? Okay, I kept wanting to say that. And then we do have the last kind of grouping is the Queen's Guard Paladin. Like I said, this would be the one that is pretty much responsible for the Queen's Guard. Like that's, which is separate from the Vestian Guard. The Vestian Guard's kind of like that general Air Force guard that protects the Vestian web. And the Royal Army is obviously an army. It's not really specialized. This is kind of like your secret service, if you will. And both of these paladins have been killed. The first one was Yasmin Eld, which we see as being killed in the Battle of Saturn. And then the one that was recently killed, and this was the one that we were kind of talking about a little bit earlier, is, I think it's Dinah. She was the one that Uldren Sov shot in the throne room when he broke in and burned it to the ground.
I don't really have much on these guys as far as like the history and whatnot.
I know Dinah kind of there's a few little tidbits from the death of Dinah that you kind of get the sense that, again, the habitual deference to the Awoken royalty. I mean, it's nothing like super like groundbreaking. It's just kind of confirmation that they have habitually deferred to Mara and Uldren because they're the royal. I mean, it's like that's very common in a I don't want to call it a dictatorship, a monarchy. Gosh, man, I'm blanking on words. So like there was that like nod that, you have, and then I think that was also where we see that the mental acuity of the Awoken is slightly quicker than their base humanity because of the distraction. It's like half that of humans, but it's still there, which is another small thing. Which actually, I mean, and that's kind of the like Green said, the Paladins really are kind of a rank. There are only 7 of them, so kind of just keep that in mind. It is a very high honor to be a Paladin. And really that kind of leads to the next kind of big group that we know. We don't know many of them. Actually, I think we know one.
If you knew any more of them, you'd probably be dead.
Is the Crows. And these are the equivalent of the Hidden for the Awoken. This is their intelligence network. And the only Crow that I really we know of is Julian Till. And that's
besides Aldrin, but yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess that's correct. Aldrin used to be the master of the Crows. He was the intelligence network. And I mean, and a big kind of deal with that was the Crows arguably were some of the reasons that they survived the Reef Wars. The Crows were very responsible for not just gathering intelligence, but also counterintelligence during the Reef War. And I think, I can't remember exactly, but I know that there was some component of the Crows with Varix as far as like when that whole defection happened. So yeah, Julian is apparently one of the scouts. He's a renowned sniper. He is also a very good weaponsmith. He is the reason that we have Lord of the Wolves. And Black Talon. I believe those are the only 2 that he's created in game currently.
I wish we had more information about the Crows. I mean, as far as things that the Crows have done, Aldrin and Julian went to the Black Garden. They get into a lot of trouble together. There's some fun little stories in the Forsaken Prince book that I highly suggest reading. They are kind of they're the pair that you see getting into trouble most often, but also in like the most college frat boy way almost. I don't know. It's hard. It's just, they're so funny. And Julian is so innocent in comparison to how Aldrin is portrayed most of the time. At least that's how it comes across to me. But
yeah, the
such a sweetie.
Black Talon mentions the Crows of the Black Hole. So
let's see.
I'm not sure. So that, I mean, really that's the Crow. And then of course the next group that we want to talk about in their society is obviously the one that also is equally, well known, but we don't know much about them, though we do now know a little bit more thanks to the Awoken of the Reef and the Maracena and all that, and that's the Tetuans. Now, before Destiny 2, we thought that there were only a limited number of Tetuans for reasons, kind of for political reasons similar to Paladins. But with Destiny 2, we actually learned that the Tetuans are actually they're not limited. It's not a limited number.
It's an order.
It's an order that you can actually be raised in. As we learned from Petra. Petra was actually being raised as a Tetuan in training up until the slaughter at Amethyst, at which point she left and she went to join the Corsairs. A large part of that anger that Petra had, which actually Petra's story actually ties into a lot of this. Petra's wrath from the Amethyst slaughter was what led to the mistake that was made with her and Aldrin, which then led to her being disbarred from being a Corsair into being an emissary to the city. and then later reinstated as not just a Corsair, but eventually the Wrath of the Queen herself.
She moves up into a paladin position, though, doesn't she?
No, she never. I don't think she ever hit paladin. She went straight to Wrath because that was. Yeah, she went straight to Wrath because that was when she found Shur's medal. I believe she was the one. She was the one that found Shur, if I remember correctly.
Well, she was kind of there at Shur's body and whatnot, or at least did we have a body with that one? I'm just trying to remember now through that card, because that card I don't remember if it was an actual body or if it was just the items. But
I think I know that it was the items because that was what I'm not sure, to be honest. I don't remember off the top of my head. But so that was a quick rundown of how Petra kind of went from a Tetuan to a Corsair to the bottom of the barrel back up to the very top. And that was mostly, and that also explains why Petra is able to do the little knife trick that she's able to do. It's kind of implied that is a little bit of the Tetuan space magic, if you will, though that's probably a bad explanation. And part of what I was going to say is part of the anger that Petra felt was the fact that one of those that was killed at Amethyst was a coven leader by the name of Pinar Venge. We don't have confirmation that they are related familially, but the same last name, I think it's a safe assumption to say that they were familiar with each other at least. I know a lot of people have connected that as being her mother. And you also have mention of her sisters dying at Amethyst. So again, we don't know, to be fair, it's an order. So you don't know if it's necessarily, sisters as in like, a coven or a covenant, or whatever, or if they were actually sisters. Like we don't know that part. Currently, the living Tetuans that we do know about are Shirochi, who is responsible actually for the pilgrimage information, which has been pretty interesting from the Dreaming City. Kali, and then Sadia, who was Sadia is interesting because Sadia was taken and then we rescued her, if I remember that correctly.
All three of them were taken, and we
were all three. Them. Okay, we rescued all of them. Oh, that's right. Because that was the raid.
The raid.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Because you're going through all three of them to get to Riven eventually at the end. But as far as their roles currently, it appears you said Sadia was the one who does the pilgrimages.
Shuro is the one that does the pilgrimages. Sadia was the one that was in the strike.
Immolation.
Corrupted strike. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know that because I've had to run that strike a lot recently.
Are you trying to get the ship, or not the ship, the items for the Dreaming City?
No, I'm just running it because I want the oxygen scout rifle, and it's a strike.
I see.
I need the oxygen.
The former Techians are super interesting as far as some of their stories go. Ilin, who was deemed the Coven Mother after the death of Pinar Venge.
Well, see, I disagree with that. I don't know if that's necessarily true because Pinar was the Coven leader of Amethyst. Ilian was always described as the Coven Mother.
So do you think they're just like I'm thinking abbeys and nuns,
right?
Like different mothers of the abbey.
Yeah, it's either that or even Ilian was above Pinar. Like Ilian was like on the field as the Coven Mother, and Pinar, however you want to say it, was I kind of got the feeling that she was like the mother, if you will, the leader of that particular. If we're going to go down the abbey, that particular covenant, that training school, boarding school, if you will. She was the headmistress of that boarding school, and I've always just kind of I kind of read it as Ilian was the master of all the Tetuans, and Pinar was just one of the headmistresses of a boarding school. That's just how I read it. So I mean, but I don't, because we also don't really have a timeline between Ilian and we do know that Ilian is still around after Pinar's death, but we don't know when Ilian got brought into the order, if you will.
I mean, Ilian is, I don't think she was ever described as not being a Coven mother. Because she's, even in her own namesake card, I believe is also, because in that namesake card, she's kind of pushing back against Petra.
Yes.
But as Ilian and I believe Lysol, Nasia, and Portia died on the ship with Mara.
Mm-hmm.
There might be one of them that was not on that ship. I can't remember. There was at least 3, if not 4 of them that died there. Pinar died at Amethyst, and then Kelda died rather spectacularly in the Dreaming City, which is still one of my favorite stinking stories, even though it's disturbing as all get out. Speaking of which, Spinfoil, Beard, I need your opinion on this.
Oh no.
Kelda and Pavel were in the Bamberga card on the same ship, the ship that had the creature of attached to, like, that Pavel saw before they jumped.
Partial correction. Pavel was the only one on that soul ship because it was a single flyer.
Are you then?
Yes,
were they
Kelda
traveling
was the one
together?
that conducted the investigation,
Okay.
and then put Pavel in quarantine. That's the only thing that I would say on that angle.
Because
continue.
I was just going down that one because information received from Paladin Nog, considered sober, dependable, not a fantasy. Nog reported a glowing creature on exterior of his ship. Ship retribution moments before routine NLS jump. Retribution FDR showed radiation spikes on all the different locations. Showed no effect on recommendation of called. Okay, so she just did the investigation. Got it. I read it as if she was with him. Do you think that
it's easily read that way? Actually, I absolutely understand why you would say that.
Do you think, though, that because of what we learned in the most recent information that dropped Tuesday, that the thing that Pavel possibly saw / brought back may have been part of dust, and that Kelda may have been infected by said thing, and that
Green, that is the most masterful dancing around the subject I have.
I mean,
can I just say I don't know because I haven't read Dust?
Oh, come on! Well, that's like the craziest one.
Look, I have so much time. Okay, I have so much time. It's a very finite amount. Okay. I also can't read when I'm at work. Thank you.
I'm sorry. It's just, it's so. Well,
I will get there. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Just okay.
You set off the beard.
I know.
Why are you making me so grumpy tonight?
I'm sorry.
So Kelda has a lot of spinfoil potential. Moving on to the Cryptarchy.
That's great to know. Now that my mind is already made up that there's a lot of spinfoil I can cover out of that book.
Oh my god, yes.
Not that I wouldn't already
also
have
stolen intelligence, and also was the name, how do you pronounce that one? Ecdysis?
Ecdysis, yeah.
Ecystis. The Book of Orin. That's all I'm gonna call it.
That's the one that I read, which I love what I read out of that, honestly.
Hey, actually, that has some of the information that could help you with the spin foil.
Oh, God.
Because the thing that happened in that book...
Oh, the thing with the jar and the guy and the
yes,
and
the Flavin and the tentacle face.
Right.
Spoilers. Right. All right, so it's...
Like that... Oh, all right, hang on. Hold up a second. The implications of that being the case...
Yeah.
And, like... all of a sudden we've got like War of the Worlds going on here. Mm-hmm. That's a problem. Mm-hmm. That's a problem.
I think I see. I'm glad that you brought Beard onto the ship of madness that you and I have been on, Green.
Right.
Okay. I'm glad we're all on just about the same page, because if there's stuff that I can't see, that explains a lot.
Just give him water.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Or just show him what a bird is. I don't know.
Show him what a bird is.
I mean, maybe that's why pigeons are the only things that are left.
So the cryptarchy. we gotta move on.
So
cryptarchy.
So the Darkness' ultimate goal was to wipe out birds, not humanity.
Well, hey, you know what? At least the bees are alive.
Yeah. Okay.
Cryptarchy. Let's go.
Cryptarchy. Cryptarchy, the major figure that we know of in the Cryptarchy currently is Master Ives. Of course, he is
in the Reef.
In the Reef, right? The Reef Cryptarchy. Is Master Ives. Now, we do have quite a bit of information about the Cryptarchy that I'm probably not going to get into, because there's so much information and so much sadness.
And there's another one who got mentioned in the new books too. Her story is really sad. Her story's in dust.
Oh, yeah. Well, she was from the city.
She was an Earthborn awoken.
She was of the Cryptarchs of the city. Though she did kind of team up with some of the Awoken, or the Reefborn.
But if I remember correctly, the schooling for the Cryptarch is out in the Reef.
That is what I kind of agree with that. I think, though, after the Reefborn and the Earthborn had this schism between them, that there was a division. Also, obviously, there was a division between the tower, or the city and the Reef schools of thought, because there is often a kind of underlying difference of philosophies, if you will, between what we see with Raoul and Ives from D1, and we don't really interact with Ives at all in D2, and now he's, of course, we're not going to interact with him at all anymore, because that
dead. Letter was still amazing.
Oh my god,
the snarky letter between the two of them.
They oh my gosh, Ives is such an a-hole. But we'll take your information, but we're not giving you anything. Like, all right, thanks.
Jerk.
You know what I have to say about that whole situation?
At
least I got Thunderlord.
That's true. I do love my Thunderlord, and it still wrecks all sorts of havoc in Gambit right now. That and Hammerhead, just saying.
Yeah. It's kind of like they need to cut down on the stability and the range of it a little bit, or something.
It's not as bad as Sleeper or Queen's Foil, although Queen's Foil got a major nerf, which I'm like, thank goodness. But freaky smile.
But I do agree that I think the original Cryptarch. The Cryptarchy was originally kind of set up there. We do kind of learn about that with Tyra. Tyra was actually one of the founders of the Cryptarchy. And the entire point of the Cryptarchy really is to rediscover and uncover information from the Golden Age. That's what they do. They are crypto archaeologists. And the reason why they are called crypto archaeologists is because their job is really decoding engrams, which are literally cryptocurrency. Like, it's a cryptocurrency basically. And so they are decoding these engrams from the Golden Age and from prior around there to uncover information and, use it, depending on the philosophy of the school, either use it or protect it from being uncovered. And Green, I know you probably had something on that.
Yeah, I just had a connection question. Cryptarchy is specifically what we call them here in Seoul, but do you think they actually have their roots within the U technology initially from the distributary? We don't have any examples or lore that would back this up.
I mean, I think I actually would argue that you probably
together.
do. You probably do, because if you look at the concept of what the UTechs in the distributary were doing, they were really, and sorry, the full term is crypto archaeologist. They really were concerned with decrypting the information from the Yang Lue or the excess screen, whichever you want to call it. They were concerned with decrypting that information and using it. Now, the understanding is that the UTechs would become the Tetuans as they progress through, from technology into kind of a more magical, I guess, sense.
Well, they still have the implants and stuff.
Yeah, they are called tech witches, which I still can't see them as anything but Shadowrun characters, because they're techno mages. But anyways, the Cryptarchy is definitely, I think, more about, recovering information from the Golden Age and recovering information as like artifacts, artifacts to understand, what exactly happened. Raoul is specifically called out in the grimoire as being like he treats each new Ingram as a chance to understand what is referred to as the glory of the Golden Age or the terrible truth of the collapse. And it's even called out that you have to listen to his idle dialogue because he has some really interesting stuff to say, and he may be the first to understand something. And if you look at like the different conversations that Raoul has throughout the lore, there are like really random and almost funny conversations that he has, but they're also really kind of a glimpse into what he's actually learning and what he's actually uncovering. We do find out in Destiny 2 that the city, in the same way that the Reef has a school, the city also has a school where they are training new cryptarchs. And so that's where I'm like, in today's Destiny or in current Destiny, I think that both the city and the Reef have their own conflicting schools or competing schools. It's like college, basically. It's two colleges. Whereas in D1, I'm going to say this. I think in D1 there was the idea that the city still had a school, but we didn't hear about it. We had only heard about the assistants and the I don't know what they were called, the basically the gophers for the masters of the Cryptarchy in the Reef, because Ives had a couple idle dialogues that he would drop here and there about having assistants go get him stuff, and you need to return this book because we need it, whatever. We never heard Raoul say that, though. With the lore that we get with this recent update, we do see that there is a standing school in the city. I think that's pretty much really a summary view of the Cryptarchy. I know there's a lot more about the Cryptarchy that we do know, but I don't want to dive into that. We kind of have already done an episode on the Cryptarchy from way back in Destiny 1, and I think most of it is still pretty accurate as far as, because I don't think we actually discussed too many theories as far as that particular episode. That was with Purple. But real quick, let's jump to another position, and that's the Queen's Wrath. And I know, Green, you're probably the best one here to talk about Petra Venge.
What a setup. Petra is... let's start with Xur, because Xur has, I think, fair, a more interesting history currently in some respects than Petra does.
Especially with Shaxx.
Yeah, that was cool. Although, does Beard know that yet?
He probably doesn't. He probably doesn't know about. So apparently, Shaxx can take multiple shots from Wishender and not have any problem.
Beard, comment, prayer request.
I'll hold all comments.
Anyway,
I'm just gonna get in trouble if I make any kind of comment, okay?
No, you're not.
Sure I am.
No, you're not.
I am. I can already think of 3 people that are gonna like anyway.
Liz?
Yeah, that's like the 3 people I'm talking about.
I'm waiting for her to find out about that, by the way.
She already
did.
Please no.
She did? Oh, good.
She's been messaging me for like 2 days.
How Jur and Shaxx are best friends, essentially?
Well, Jur is the one who introduced Shaxx to Mara.
Uh-huh.
Which, it might actually put an arrow through the whole theory of Marax.
Not according to Liz.
No, it completely kills it. We're going with that idea. Okay?
It it to death.
Shaxx was a real titan until he took an arrow to the knee.
Can we just stop the podcast on that notion? Like, is that where we can end it? Please. I feel like I'm just comedic relief and the science guy at this point. Just call me Bill Nye, I guess, at this point.
You are way more attractive than Bill Nye.
I mean, did you see Bill Nye in his prime? I mean, he wasn't that bad. I guess.
Yes. Not sure how to follow that up.
I don't know. I don't know where.
So
I'm
anyway,
going with this at this point. Yes, thank you.
So, the original Queen's Wrath to Mara. Now, granted, there are Queen's Wrath within the distributary themselves, but Jur becomes Mara's Wrath after an assassination attempt-ish on Mara's life. She goes after Mara because she's angry about things, and she tries to kill her. Mara instead cannot kill her because she kind of sees the human side of Mara with the whole tech thing that ends up happening, and then her and Jur and Aldrin have this kind of showdown where they have 3 different trials, and it pretty much ends up where Jur is kind of offering her life and everything to Mara at the end of it, and Mara, instead of killing her or like pushing her away or anything like that, takes her on as her essentially personal bodyguard / vengeance person. Like, Jur goes and does all the hunting essentially, which, considering the history of her going after Mara, seems kind of fitting. She likes to go and do that kind of thing. She likes to go and hunt. She apparently likes to go and hunt Ahamkara, as well as other things. But in the Reef itself, Jur is a character who is kind of, talk about comic relief, she's kind of the most relatable, I think, of a lot of the characters that we see from the Reef. A lot of them
at least the most straightforward.
Oh yeah, God. Who was it? Was it the Jinsum scribes who were like, "Oh my God"?
Yeah, they're like, "Oh."
Yeah, they were like, "No, we."
She's
they
a
were
terror.
Like, "We don't want to make her mad. Just don't piss her off.
Run away!"
Right. God.
That was their response. Actually, was "Run away!" Now I have Monty Python stuck in my head.
And now I have the hoofs.
Yeah.
With the coconut. But Jur is a person who has been known in lore to have dreams within soul. She saw her own death, essentially. Mara prevented it, and then she kept having dreams, if I remember correctly, and had a bunch of different things happen with that. She was always kind of Mara's right hand. The point
didn't start that way.
No, it didn't. And then it didn't end up in the middle of that being the right hand either. She just ended up being all of Mara at one point, all of everything to Mara, which is kind of a sweet story. Mara's discovery of Zhur's death is one of the most heartbreaking cards I've read in like recent weeks.
And how like succinct it was in a lot of rights with what we had in the Oren book, at least. I don't know if it's described elsewhere, but like that entry and how short it was, I was just like, oh, okay. Like you don't necessarily see how much Zhur really means to Mara until that spot.
Because, you get hints of it, but you never fully see it, yeah.
Well, like she definitely lets her guard down a little bit more with Zhur, for sure. No rhyme intended on that. Oh God. The base idea though was like, yes, she's the right hand of Mara. She's the Queen's Wrath. She's very important. But how much of this like really carries out, or how friendly were they, or how much did they really care for each other, etc. You don't really get that moment until she absolutely snaps. Like that is like that's the closest that I think we kind of see Mara snap, between that and when she talks back to Ghost in the one of the recent times of going back to see her. Like those few entries were definitely just like, okay, yeah, this is showing that Mara's got a little humanity behind her in a way.
Well, there's even a point in the Dreaming City where there was a tree planted. This, I believe, is one of the pilgrimages. It is an unlucky sign, or it's something that is not done, that you do not erect a statue of a person who you don't know for sure if they're dead or not.
Right.
So Mara planted a tree after Zhur went missing. And it wasn't until later that Zhur's statue was erected within the throne realm in the Shattered Throne, what would eventually become the Shattered Throne. But Mara began mourning Zhur, but always had hope, and you see that hope finally die in that card within the Oren book, which is heartbreaking. Petra, if we're going to move past Zhur into Petra, the concept of the Queen's Wrath is something I've kind of been struggling with, like what makes a Queen's Wrath the Queen's Wrath. And so in my mind, and this is somewhat headcanon / just spending a lot of time thinking about this character, the Queen's Wrath is a character who has generally gone through a immense amount of loss in some respects, and has a wrathful nature that kind of sets them off. Zhur does that with the whole assassination attempt on Mara. Petra does that after the attack on Amethyst and the becoming of a Corsair. She drops the Techian training, becomes a Corsair. Her and Uldren have the problem with Petra made a bad call on the field, and Uldren blowing up was it 3 fire teams? 3 groups thing? It's either 3 or 2.
Yeah, 3
fire
teams.
Of Guardians, completely killing them. And then the Petra being kicked to the tower. Petra's steadfastness, I think, is what ends up winning her back over with Mara. But Petra, like Beard said earlier, is the one who found Zhur, or Blue said it earlier, found Zhur's body, which got more confirmation on that it was actually the body and not just the items, because on the body itself there was a coin, a strange coin, which granted in the card it's listed as a strange coin. It does not capitalize, but with the information we got recently, which that card is part of the information we got recently, that is likely a strange coin as what we had in D1. So if you are new to Destiny's universe, new to the lore, Strange coins are what we used to spend with Zur, the good old tentacle face himself, to get items. And they were representatives of the 9, or a part of the currency with the 9. Mm-hmm. But Petra finds a coin on Zur's body and comes back. And then not too terribly long after that, Mara brings Petra up into Wrathdom, and we see her as a Wrath within the Vestian outpost and House of Wolves. So timing-wise, it's interesting when she becomes Wrath. Petra, after becoming Wrath and everything that happens with Mara, she becomes acting regent, which is another post that we haven't necessarily laid out here. She's still technically Queen's Wrath. Queen is still in some ways around, even though she's taken off to go talk to somebody, and we don't know exactly where. I don't know who she's off visiting right now, but Petra is still the acting hand to the Queen, and she still holds the Queen. Fun fact, Petra actually had some supporters, but most of the cards that we have when it comes to Petra as acting regent are of people who either are unsure as acting regent, whether it's Aldrin or a few other paladins, calling her into question, essentially, as far as what she's doing and whether or not they should move on. There's a card in particular that talks about a memorial that the Awoken people are having for Mara, thinking that she was completely dead, and Petra refused to go. But beyond that, I think we should go into the actual nobility themselves. Anybody want to kick off with Miss Mara?
She's crazy, yo.
She's the queen. She's the queen. Yeah, she's the queen.
She was elected their queen, though.
Uh-huh.
By all technicalities, she was elected. I will fight you. I will fight you on this.
I mean, anybody can manipulate people quite as well as she can.
I mean, she is. I mean,
she's like, I joke about it, but that's her general station for better or worse in a lot of rights.
Right.
But one thing that I will say is that she is also okay with the idea of being hated, which they highlight in the Orin book, which is really what I'm just going to call it at this point, because that's what it really is. But the major thing that I really can kind of appreciate about her, she keeps a lot of secrets for her own, possibly her own benefit, but she does allow for some people to effectively know them. Letting Alice Lee know that, hey, just to let you know, you weren't the first that came back.
Right.
And that like sends her into this fiery fury. I loved that little moment that was shared between those two in the distributary. But that's the major piece about her, is like how much she definitely like manipulates or alters a lot of things, or makes truths out of things that aren't necessarily true, where it's like perspective driven in a lot of rights, which, funny enough that we bring up the word perspective again. The other piece, though, is that she has a means to communicate with her people, especially the Reef-born Awoken, and even the Earthborn ones say that they feel like a pull or a tug in one direction. Even Guardians talk about it from time to time as well. And again, kind of showcased a little bit more with Orin, which, by the by, we got to talk about Orin when it comes to Aldrin as well.
Right.
The largest pieces, though, of like what she's kind of considered and looked at, She works with many guardians over the course of time, actually, especially
Osiris,
larger
Eris.
ones. Yeah, I gotta say, at least largely considered, she worked with Osiris, which I think is just more confirmed than anything lately. But there's those little bits that really kind of jump out at you. And then, of course, taking on the Taken King and being like one of the first ones that did it, or ultimately finding out that like she was the one that kind of stopped him in his tracks to begin with. I think that was the funniest thing about all of it. So she's definitely a very important figure to our struggle in our system. Without her, I don't think we would be anywhere close to like where we are.
Right.
Even technologically, I don't think so either, because by her jumping out of the distributary and bringing a good majority of the tech that the Awoken had, that they had developed, they very well could be the ones that took us out of the Dark Age and brought us into the City Age full and proper. We may have started it by gathering under the Traveler, but they were the ones that gave us the technology to excel a little bit further. At least that's what I've kind of at least put in my headcanon at this point. And I think there's a couple pieces in the Orin book that sort of back that up too.
Mm-hmm. Fun fact about Mara, though. She did not rise to queenship until after they arrived back in Seoul, after they left the distributary. And it wasn't right away once they got into Seoul. It actually took a little while, because you see in one of the Reef War cards, there is I want to say it's a Corsair or a Paladin, somebody who is on the ship helping with navigations or like attack plan and stuff like that.
He was just a mechanic.
Was he a mechanic? He refers to just her as Mara.
And the Techuan gets on his case.
Yeah, the Techuan basically snaps at him and says, "You will address her by her title," which it's one of those things where you see, okay, this is a fairly new thing for people to see Mara as. They don't just see her as Mara, because in the distributary, she was just Mara. She was a very techie person. Like, she did all sorts of like technological advances, as did Aldrin. Although Aldrin, you don't really see him getting into the tech stuff until much later. But she did not rise to queenship until after they got back to Seoul. But
well, speaking of Aldrin,
Mr.
Let's talk about Aldrin before pulled pork.
Aldrin before pulled pork was kind of a jerk to any Guardian.
Don't you mean a Guardian before, or a Aldrin before a new Guardian was born?
I still want to see what's going on with that.
Uh-huh. Even though it won't really be a new Guardian at this point, because
it's been 3 months. Oh, that too. Aldrin Sov, brother to Mara Sov, known as Olduin on Yang Liwei. Remembers, interestingly enough, so you talk about how they don't remember a lot about their former life from when you are on Yang Liwei to becoming awoken. Yet Aldrin, Osana, which is another character I would like to mention at least, and Mara all know that they're family. So there are some things that apparently translated over as far as the awoken, becoming awoken and being reborn. There are some memories, or at least familial ties, that translate over. But Aldrin is the Master of Crows. He is perceived as kind of a jerk face, is putting it lightly. He does not like Guardians. There are reasons he does not like Guardians. Namely because of, what was it, Savin?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Aldrin is the character who basically goes out and finds things for Mara. He's the one who brought Riven to Mara. He brought the asphodelia flower or the asphodelia plant to Mara. He also brought Savin, one of the first guardians to be first awoken guardians to be brought to the queen. And
he also brought most of our first telemetry back, or the first telemetry back to the Awoken about the last say city and whatnot.
I don't know, he's the one who goes and finds information, and his relationship as far as with him and the queen could be an entire episode, in my opinion, as far as talk about not only just mental health, but also just the interesting psychological connections that those two have. Mm-hmm. Aldrin is constantly trying to, in some ways, prove himself to Mara, which is seen in all sorts of different ways, even though in a lot of ways he goes against what Mara wants him to do. Mara banned him from going to the Black Garden. He kind of did it anyways, but by doing so, he did bring back a bunch of information, as well as the asphodelia plant, and very important information for the queen for later. Aldrin, gosh darn it, now I'm getting stuck on his old name, obviously gets taken by Riven after, not really taken, he tricked. He basically, once Mara goes through with the Taken King and falls to Oryx and goes into the throne realm with Oryx, Aldrin basically thinks she's dead. So Mara obviously did not tell him everything. Mara also did not tell Petra everything, by the way. Petra knew a little bit, enough to keep her going, but she didn't know the whole plan. I think the only ones who kind of knew more of her plan were the Techians, and even they seem to be left out of at least part of it. But Aldrin crashes on Mars after the whole thing, which is kind of a bizarre location, considering that he would basically have to fly from outside of Saturn to Mars. But he becomes infected with Ribbon, in some respects, is the easiest way to put it. He starts rubbing his eyes. The whole thing for the Forsaken goes down, where he and the Barons and everything go down. And Petra / our Guardian, whoever you think, or both, kill him at the end of Forsaken in revenge of Cade, or retribution for Cade. And then back in December this last year, we see a little ghost by the name of Pulled Pork, who is a special ghost. And I am really wanting, I really want Bungie to do some cutscenes with Pulled Pork talking to Aldrin. Dear God, please.
Hi!
Please make this a thing.
Hey! Do you want to do this?
No. Just, if he's still got the same personality as a Guardian, that's another thing I want to see. He would be the first character we see before and after, and I want to see if his personality sticks. But, oh my gosh, it would be so freaking hilarious to see Pulled Pork. Because Pulled Pork is the ghost from the Ghost Stories.
You're my guardian!
Yeah, no. He's the ghost who was scanning, wasn't it,
everything.
Iron beams and
everything.
Concrete.
He was scanning concrete. He interrupted the conversation he was having with Nietzsche. Nietzsche. No, God, Nietzsche. What is it?
No.
Nietzsche? 32? And Agu. He interrupted the conversation to turn around and scan a block of concrete. And they're like, what are you doing? I'm looking for my guardian. Maybe my guardian is really small.
Oh, yeah. It's like, oh my gosh.
Maybe you can't see his guardian. Oh no, what have I done?
I mean, Oh my God.
I don't want to go down this train anymore.
Anyway,
I'm done.
That's
Abort.
that's where Aldrin is. Somewhere with pulled pork. We know Mara knows about it, but we don't know if Mara has him or if he's somewhere else. We have no idea where he's at right now. Which, Bungie, please, let's just get this over with, because I just ripped that Band-Aid off. I want to see it.
I'll tell you where he's not.
In the tower?
Dead.
That's true.
Did you guys see that webcomic?
Yeah.
No.
Why are you trying to shoot my guardian?
I shared that webcomic.
Is that where you was okay? I was like to say.
Because it was adorable. And I was like, no, this would be me. I would immediately look at him and be like, I'm going to shoot you again. And then I'd be like, well, oh, now I feel like a jerk.
Uh-huh.
And of course, Zavala walking away going,
I know, I'm done.
I need Ikora.
I need Ikora.
You just need, like, pulled pork to talk for Aldrin. At least part of the time, and then you wouldn't be able to shoot him. At least I wouldn't be able to shoot him.
Yeah, I mean, if pulled pork jumps in the way, I'd just be like, you know, I can't be mad at you, pork. You just so cute. You would just go back to scanning concrete blocks and iron beams.
Oh my
what
goodness.
kind of a life is that for a ghost? Anyway.
Oh my goodness, this comic is amazing.
Yeah, it's so good.
I love the fact that Aldrin's face in the comic is just like so innocent.
Happy.
Then we can talk to Cade.
Oh God.
He's smiling.
Yep.
The Guardian's like blah 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 blah, city blah blah, Vanguard blah blah.
Why are you attacking my Guardian?
Zavala's saying that stuff, and then the Guardian just kind of looks over and goes,
"Oh my God!"
What? Like all of a sudden, like Metal Gear sounds are ringing off, just like bling. Anyway.
Oh my gosh. There's only one. Go for it.
If you look down further, there's the second part of it. Mm-hmm. There's also a colored version of
Aldrin's with the egg eyes.
And it looks like he's got eggs for eyes. Yeah.
God.
Friggin' love it. Anyway.
Yeah, but yes, Beard, the best part is Zavala just walking away.
I need Ikora.
My goodness.
Oh my gosh.
Poor Aldrin. Last character I do want to mention, she's not actually here in Seoul, but she is important as far as to Mara and Aldrin, and that is their mother, who is Osana. And main reason I'm bringing her up is because Osana, as far as we know within the distributary, is still alive, but there is a statue to Osana within the Dreaming City. So that is kind of the one that breaks the rule of do not have a statue for people who are not confirmed to be dead. But she is the mother of both Mara and Aldrin, and I could not even imagine trying to mother those two.
Well, to be fair, she didn't really.
In a lot of ways, like, okay, so Osana, I don't know, like...
She seemed like a very hands-off parent. At least with Mara.
I do, and I don't see it.
At least with Mara, she did.
Yeah, I would say hands-on for Aldrin, and then hands-off for Mara.
Because, like...
even then, Mara even says so much as to say, I don't want you as my mother, I want you as my friend.
Yeah,
and
right.
That kind of tallies into it a little bit.
Well, okay, and personal story note, I kind of have that relationship with my mother now. And I had that relationship with my mother when I was in high school as well. She was still my mother, and I still think she mothered me in many ways, but it was not... I don't know. Mara was also, 18? When Yang Liwei...
I think so.
She was
around that age.
She was around that age. She was an older teenager at that time, at least. And so, as a young teenage woman, back in the day, I can see that relationship being the way it is because I had that relationship with my mother at that point. Because I was the oldest. I was doing a lot of things in on my own and like moving forward, trying to do everything on my own and create my own personality, my own life, essentially at that point without my mother. So it's kind of that breaking away and coming of age thing. You're just kind of pushing yourself towards it. So I know you say she didn't really mother her, but in a lot of ways she still kind of did because she didn't put up with what Mara did a lot of the times with like she flat out called her out on how she used Aldrin.
Well, that's something that I know that some family friends have said too for a while. There is a point as like a father or mother that you have to figure out that you're still the father and the mother. Mm-hmm. And then there you also have to figure out where you're the friend and where you can kind of allow for some of that to kind of go in. Mm-hmm. And I think that there's a definite balance between that as I'm kind of getting older and sort of feeling that. Granted, I think Blue would be the best one to sort of lace in with that because I'm sure that there have been moments in his life dealing with the little lights that he has where all of a sudden they do something and he has to stop himself from laughing because it's hilarious, but it's also really bad for them to end up doing or something similar.
I have no idea what you're saying about what you're talking about. I would never, ever. I do that all the time. I can't even get through that. Like I mean, it's like one of the first things you have to pick up. It's like, especially when they're toddlers, you have to be able to be like, all right, I'm going to walk out of the room. And as soon as you walk out of the room, you just break laughing. But like, yeah, you have to be you have to have a good poker face for the most part.
Mm-hmm. I gotta say, the amount of parents I know that kind of deal with that in general, and I can imagine that like Osana, especially over like a near like several millennia, basically of being alive with Mara and seeing the crap that Mara does on the constant,
and like, of knows course she's doing it,
and knows it, and still doesn't tell anybody, still allows it to go on. I'm just like, Osana, there's got to be a point where you just go, you know what? I think my kid is just a real jerk. Maybe I got to tell somebody. It just, I don't know, it flabbergasted me about like how far she lets that go. But it should still showcase like the familial ties between Aldrin, Osana, and Mara very well, I think, because regardless, like after Osana, I think, is one of the few. I think Zura would be another one that could look. They don't do that, and she would pretty well consider, I'm not going to do that unless it really gets in the way of her plans. And for Mara's character as a whole, I think that says quite a bit. Most of the character development for Osana, outside of her just being a semi-old cranky lady, it seems like, as she goes along in the distributary, just seems to be built more from like or offers credence to like how Mara's character is built. Definitely a very good supporting character though for many rights.
Yes. You'd have to have an extraordinary woman, in my opinion, raise somebody like Aldrin and Mara. Because they're odd. They're different.
They're even odd before they turn.
Like
they don't fit the typical bill of what you would consider a normal family, which granted, I'm starting to read a few extra things. That Oren book, man, the first page of that book makes me think so many things. And it's not even like the Yang Lai Wei is like the Titanic. That's not even it. Like, there's so much crap that makes me think the Golden Age was a bunch of junk. Anyway.
Wait, you mean the golden days weren't golden?
Yeah, I don't think we got Golden Girls going on here, guys.
Now I have that song stuck in my head. Thank you, you two.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. That's what we're here for.
Well, you want to wrap this up and talk about the geography of the reef real quick?
As far as like, we can name off the locations and
I guess we technically kind of already did, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say I think I actually slapped the crap out of that.
I know. I was about to say Beard got a little carried away. I think the only one that you guys didn't really touch on was Cybele, 65 Cybele. Or Cybele, yeah. And I think that the only big thing with Cybele was the fact that this was the final battle of the Reef Wars, because Varix basically got fed up with Skolas's brutality and was like, no, this is not okay. And he defected to the Awoken and basically like just completely blindsided the House of Wolves. The only other one, Amethyst, was a Green. I know we kind of were talking about that. Amethyst was a space station. It was fully destroyed during the Reef Wars, and the only reason that I also was I don't know if I got a chance to say it. The other reason for Amethyst not being an asteroid really was because if we remember, the Reef-born, actually I think all the Awoken are very, very keen on the actual stone, amethyst. That was actually a collectible item in D1 that you could use as a currency with the Vestian outpost.
So, and also mines largely too. Yeah.
Right. That and Varix was known to carve them, which if you know anything about amethyst, that's pretty impressive. Like that, I'm just like, because I remember he cuts himself with it, I think, or with one of them,
with the knife or
the knife. That's right. Yeah. He slips on the. But anyways, he carves. He basically whittles amethyst, which is just, to me, that's crazy.
It's an extremely dense geode, like just an extremely dense type of geological stone. It is insane what it can stand up to.
And then
not diamond, granted, but it does very well.
Yeah, it's pretty. It's up there. The only other one really that we didn't mention before was the Tangled Shore. Really, the Tangled Shore is kind of the wasteland. The way I look at it is if you view the Vestian Web as the kind of the heart of the Reef civilizations, this is the Lawless Wilds. This is the home of the Scorn, the Hive, the crashed remnants of the Red Legion. This is where you see the Spider. We see the Spider using the chaos of all the factions to kind of serve his own interest. You see this as also being the location of the gateway to the Dreaming City, though admittedly the Dreaming City is not really in the Reef. Green, did you have anything on that one?
I just want to do one correction on amethyst. So on the hardness scale, diamond is like a perfect 10. Amethyst is around a 7. So it's not like super, super hard, but it's past like that midway point.
Yeah, I mean, to whittle one, it's still right. It's not wood, is what I'm thinking.
But it would fracture. That's the thing that amethyst tends to do.
And what's also being pointed out by Hex, and something I wanted to bring up, we're also comparing where amethyst would be born of materials and processes here on Earth. It would be different in deep space. You wouldn't have the same pressures, and so that amethyst can actually change in its overall density. By all accounts, it could actually be much harder than the stuff that we have here on Earth, just because of a lot of those processes that can kind of be put into it, along with solar winds and a few other regards besides.
Yeah, and you'd also probably see a lot larger fractal displays too, because that's like if you watch plants grow in vacuum, they don't grow because there's no gravity, so they grow circular. They don't grow like in a single direction. which is really actually that's really cool. If you ever have a chance, you should go look up that. That's a really cool experiment that they've done. Mm-hmm. But that's really kind of all I had as far as like a really basic introduction to like the overall geography, political, social structure of the reef. You guys have anything else?
The only thing I would kind of want to pick Beard's brain about and your brain about is we have the 4 locations we've been to: Vestian Outpost, the Tangled Shore, the Dreaming City, and Prison of Elders, which technically is like a space station, essentially. Mm-hmm. The distance between Tangled Shore and Dreaming City. We go through the tower to get to the Dreaming City. Where and how in the world do we manage that, and where in space do you feel that they lie? I know we don't have any solidified proof of it. We know where kind of the Tangled Shore is, but we have no idea where the Dreaming City is in relation to it.
Yeah, and I still don't necessarily know where to even begin with that. The Tangled Shore itself seems inevitably linked with the Dreaming City in some way, shape, or form. That's at least fairly obvious to me, with just like being able to see the watchtower from the distance you can on the one starting area, and I forget exactly where it is now off the top of my head in Tangled Shore, but off to the east and up the lift. That being said, like where exactly it would be in accordance with the reef, it seems like it's actually somewhat close, just because of like the rings and everything. Mm-hmm. I've always taken those rings at least to be the reef itself, which I don't know if we necessarily get full confirmation of that, but it just makes sense. The reef is said to be like a lashing of ships and a bunch of like constructs and whatnot that are put together from there. So for me, it just kind of like makes sense in that regard. The thing that really drives me absolutely nutty about the Dreaming City and consequently the Tangled Shore as well, if they happen to be linked up in some way, would also be spatial drift. You have to account for the fact that this thing is moving through space, and if it's not, then that would also mean that it is an outlier within our system as being a very stationary force. The question would effectively be how they would accomplish this. The real short answer is it can't happen. We're effectively moving through our planets are, of course, spinning in an orbital, an elliptical around our sun. Our solar system is also moving within our galaxy. Our galaxy is also moving throughout the overall vastness of what we consider the universe, and quite possibly those universes are also swimming in a whole bunch of balls that we might consider the cosmos. Everything is in constant motion within the universe, and to effectively think that the Dreaming City would be in one place would contradict that entire notion, like fully and 100%. That's actually why things like Einstein-Rosen bridges or wormholes, as they're more so kind of linked to, are so impossible in a lot of rights to find one that like links you directly from one path to the next almost perfectly, because in a lot of rights that space changes in the next moment. So that's I know I'm kind of like again going on a bunch of tangents here, but
no, you're okay.
Just to stress that like whole idea that everything has to be in constant motion, which within our system, within our star cluster, within anything, And that's where I lose myself in terms of like where it could specifically be. The only thing I can realistically say is like I think somewhere close to the Reef. And again, that's just theorem. There's nothing that puts it though.
The only thing that my brain, and this is pure headcanon, thinks every time I see those stupid rings is Stargate.
Oh, absolutely.
Or like Halo, even.
No,
Anybody?
it's Stargate. It's Stargate.
It's really more
Stargate.
They refer to them as Stargates.
Right. Yeah. So you have like the Stargate concept where you essentially wormhole your way from one location to another. So if perchance the Dreaming City was within eyeshot of the Tangled Shore, but somehow cloaked, which theoretically could be possible for the Awoken people, it would be quite a very, I don't know, it seems like such a feat to go through to make that work, but I don't know. My mind thinks there's like a Stargate that they go through, and that's the reason why you have to go through the tower, and you can't just, hey, it's just right over there. Let's hop in our ship. No, you have to go through this tower first to be able to do it. That's just my perspective.
And I think that you're definitely onto something in that regard too. In effect, I'm sure there's something out there with like the many patrols that you can do in Dreaming City, that kind of constitutes some pieces to say like here's an explanation for like why the Dreaming City doesn't move or why it exists in the place that it is. My contention is more so, does it exist in our space, in our universe, quote unquote, or does it exist in an alternate? Because
is it another pocket distributary type thing?
Right. Like all of a sudden they have some means that they can sort of control it. If not, then at that point they've found a way to lash that system and effectively make sure that they can go in and out of that spot as they please, without having to worry about like interaction from us or otherwise. So that's where I kind of, even the general vicinity or idea of what the thing is, what the rings are, what anything is, matters nothing to the general existence of where this place is. Because at that point, then anything that I could say is completely thrown out the door. Like entirely 100%. Right. Which again kind of comes back to something else, which is, as more of an aside, kind of linked up with the Awoken, with the Nine, because we know that they possibly use a black hole or a wormhole, whatever Bungie really wants to utilize for traversal in some rights, and we pop out into unknown space. And as we now know with the Drifter as well, we also pop out into unknown space thanks to the ice rock that he's hauling and going through, again, a freaking Stargate. So all of these things are this collective idea of, are we going to different places within our universe, within our solar system, etc., or are we, or not solar system, but even galaxy as well? Are we starting to get to like different points where we're going into like multiverse theory? Are we starting to play with just a bunch of different portal dimensions like we had with the distributary?
Right.
That's where this whole thing is driving me up an absolute brick wall, because no matter I'm presented with like our space is what we had it in Destiny 1, is basically meaningless to the spaces that we now see with things like ascendant planes, unknown space, the distributary, and any pocket dimensions that could exist past that. All these different concepts with like with relativistic physics, multiverse theory, and so on. I think it even comes back to the next thing with the Vex and whatnot too, like time. As soon as you introduce anything with time, you're also introducing elements with space, because the two are perpetually linked together. And in that respect, the force that could be screwing all of this up is the Vex still, for all we know. And that's just kind of like where I think I'll kind of leave it before I kind of keep going on this lecture. But the general idea is, like, are they inside of our realm, our universe, our dimension, whatever, or are they outside? And I think that's the major piece that would kind of play into it. And again, I will stress the two words that matter here: science fantasy. They base a lot of things off of current ideas and theories in science. And they are making that into their general space of lore and story writing as a whole, and they have to kind of run with that the entire time. I made the theory that Dreisten Core of the Lost Fleet of Saturn was actually one of the first sets of humanity that had actually come across Oryx back in the day, because back around the time that the guys for Destiny were possibly writing a piece of this, Saturn was theorized to have a black hole around it, a micro one, but it was theorized to have one. So if there is something that caused that, and they're using black holes, as we've seen with Savathun and a couple others, be these bridges to go from point 1 to point 2 within the universe, then all of a sudden you've got Dreisten Core popping up in another vicinity, seeing Oryx, and that's why he gets converted down to chitin and is a weapon. You know, that's why within science fantasy they have to play with this idea a little bit more, and they're pretty well derived to have to stick to it as well. That's one of the problems with science fantasy in some regards, because even Star Trek and Star Wars have had this means with science fiction to work themselves a little differently or change and etc. For instance, we'll see like the way that Star Trek took like the automatic doors and automatic elevators. They felt they needed to have their hand on something in the original series for Star Trek, and then in Next Generation, we just have to talk to the voice and it takes us where we want. And it changes, and our views have changed on it as well. And now science fiction has turned into stuff like cell phones or computers or the microphone I'm talking into right now, where science fantasy is the stuff of myth, a lot of rights, which is why I think it's so important to always kind of caveat back to the idea that we still run with like Greek or Norse myth or anything like that, etc. That's why I really do appreciate what Bungie still puts together, and having the conviction that they understand that, oh, we ran with this theory, it's no longer right. Now I need to go ahead and like still run with this the entire time, but make the caveat of, well, who could have guessed that was going to happen?
Right.
Anyway, yeah. Before I keep going, difference in science fantasy and science fiction could just be like, long story short, something else that we could talk about as a whole.
Blue, do you have anything else you want to talk about with the Reef and the Awoken that we've chatted about?
No.
Are you content?
I am happy.
Well, that's a rare station.
I know. Shh.
Yeah.
Let's just enjoy it.
Are we going to put on any of the new books onto the poll? Please say yes.
They are already all on the poll.
Yes!
With the exception of the ones that I was told are not complete.
Right, because of the time gate aspect of them.
Yeah, I believe the only one really is the wizard, or not the wizard, God, the warlock.
Aurora,
Honor, yeah,
or
the Banff, as I refer to her.
And then also still Truth to Power.
Yes.
Yeah.
For the next 6 months.
I mean, we're gonna talk. We'll talk about Truth to Power when Destiny 3 comes out.
Beard has much the same reaction I did when I found out about that. I was like, wait, it's still not? Okay. All right.
I still don't agree with that decision to spread it out that far. I think that's a little silly, but
the problem I'm having as far as like that goes is I've kind of sort of lost interest in that story because of how spread out
that's ultimately I'm right there with you, Green. I'm
Yep.
Yeah, I am right there with you, and I think that I feel like that it lost its impact. That it had a really, like, full disclosure, I've already read it, but it has. Yeah, I was about to say
I have not.
I don't. Yeah, I was about to say I don't know if Green has, but I think Beard, you and I have. It has a really cool story, but given the actual time gating of it, I think that it's lost its impact because the events that are being discussed are now they've been put on the back burner as far as most people's attention. So, right. Whatever.
And in addition, content creators feel like Bife was also kind of feeling too, like we don't want to cover it because one, I would rather not necessarily be on Bungie writers' bad side, but two, I also want to respect their work. And in the same time, I really would love to talk about this because it's like great writing. And I think that overall it makes you think in terms of like the twists and turns it
definitely
takes.
Yeah,
like it's fantastic.
The choose your own adventure.
That God, yeah, the fact that those are out right now. Green, I will tell you now, for like your own interest for weeks coming up.
Mm-hmm.
This week coming up is very interesting.
Okay. Yeah,
I'll tell you that now. I'm not going to say anything.
I've made
very interesting
point of trying to avoid spoilers as much as possible, but trying to digest the stories as they're coming.
Right.
And as they're made available. So things like, so the book about with the Thorn Quest and everything that's coming up, that is already available to read. I already read it. But things like Truth to Power and the Aura book, because the writer specifically said not to, I am very much so trying to digest it in the manner in which they're intending. And so I get an authentic experience as the way they're trying to intend it. That's the only reason as far as like why I'm avoiding it.
Yeah, and Dino does make a good point. Stolen Intelligence does bring Truth to Power back into somewhat of the focus. A little bit. Well, but you have to read Stolen Intelligence and you have to understand it. And to be fair, you have to understand. You have to understand what Stolen Intelligence is talking about because Stolen Intelligence also has its own code going on within it too. So, but I mean, it's just So short of
nightmare.
Oh God, I know. I have like 3 pages of notes deciphering some stuff, but short of Truth to Power and the Warlock, I keep wanting to calling it Honor, but basically the Banff. Those are the only 2 books I don't think I have on the poll. Everything else is currently on the poll. So cool. If you guys want, definitely give us a heads up on which ones. But other than that, you want to do shout outs real quick?
Yes.
So Green, what
I'll
you got?
go first. My shout out actually goes to a trio of ladies who I've actually become pretty close to recently. They are having a major housing crisis that's happening. They have black mold in their apartment that was spread from the air ducts of some of their neighbors into their own. And so I retweeted a GoFundMe link on my Twitter. This would be on March 9th. And I retweeted it, I believe, yesterday, which would have been March 8th. do me a huge favor and you follow me on Twitter, at least retweet it and show your friends and stuff like that. I'm not asking you to necessarily donate. If you can, that's amazing. But if you cannot, I get it. Just help me spread the word, because they are in a bad situation because their landlord is being a complete and utter jerk about it and not going to take care of them and make sure that they are living in a situation that they're paying for, which is they're supposed to be living in a better situation. So please do me a huge solid by retweeting that out, getting that out there so they can at least have something to be able to get rid of this black mold, which is not a fun thing to do. But that is my shout out.
Beard, what about you?
I'm gonna actually do a small self plug, but it's still for this show. I'm also gonna say I'm just glad I didn't talk all your ears off for another 4 hours. But
it's okay. I would have split that one in two too.
Yeah, and then you would have talked to me in private and say, "Can you stop this, please, for the love of God?" I hate editing. I
connected him with the tape deck. Please flip to side B.
I didn't get a chance to kind of listen to that. You guys will actually find out why I haven't had a lot of time, possibly tomorrow, dependent on if Planet Destiny decides to put my first video up that I'm coming back with.
Yay!
But I have been hard at work on something else on the side, aside from feeling like I had a cold for like a day and a half, which wasn't fun. But otherwise, if you guys have not had a chance to listen to the Nier lore packet cassettes, whatever we want to call it here, it was 4 hours of my life that I will never get back. It was also a week and a half's worth of research that I will never get back, that I gladly put out there for all of you to kind of listen to. But if you guys get a chance to kind of listen to another story that's convoluted and a total mess, then there you go. When I start talking science fantasy, that's another very big one, because we literally deal with aliens again on planet Earth. Anyway, the biggest shout out though that I have is really that for this week. If you guys don't mind kind of giving it a listen, I definitely appreciate it. Otherwise, the biggest thing that crap, I kind of lost my train of thought here. The biggest thing that otherwise I've been kind of seeing around the community has just been generally good takes on Season of the Drifter so far. I've of course still seen some of the salt. It's been absolutely muted as soon as I see it, because that's my mindset right now. But the biggest thing that I will say is that I think I've seen more constructive conversations that have happened for the most part, which is great. And I'm absolutely thrilled to see a lot of that going on. So if you have anything constructive to tell Bungie, then feel free. If you just want to say, I don't like it, and you're not blue, because I understand his reasons for not liking it.
I'm sitting here, I'm like, jeez, I need to stop saying stuff.
No, you're fine.
Now,
funny.
Blue's case of I don't like it. If you just straight don't like something, fine. But don't bring anybody else's party down, for the love of God. Because Blue runs this very fine line where he's like, I don't like it. I hope you guys are liking it, though.
Yeah, I'm completely...
Like, that's it.
I love the fact that people love it. I don't.
Yeah.
But, you know...
Hey, what were we talking about in top 3 about
empathy?
It's okay to disagree, and
no,
and still
Well, and you know, just to kind of explain that a little bit more, it's like I've also kind of feel like I have justified, like, to myself pretty well why I'm not a fan of it, and I'm just like, I'm not gonna sit there and complain about it. I'm just gonna go do other things that I do like.
And you've never liked Gambit. You didn't like original Gambit.
That's also very. I don't like Warzone. So it's like, it's just that particular game style is just not. But I mean, I understand. I do see where people who have been wanting, who are either PvP or PvE, that are wanting to kind of transcend into the other realm but don't feel comfortable. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. I mean, I remember when the Horde mode for Halo 3 came out, or ODST came out. And again, I was not a fan of it, but I completely see where it was, where it fit, and it did fit very well for a large percentage of the population that was playing that game. Same with Gambit. I mean, it's and obviously, the other thing is if you guys, I think I mentioned this before we started recording, but if you guys haven't listened to the Fireteam Chat episode with Bungie, go give it a listen. They have a really, really candid conversation with Deej, Lars, and Lisa from the Bungie team. And I mean, Deej does kind of make a comment about, they have all this data. And the thing is at the end of the day, Bungie is a business. They're going to go where the money is. They're going to go where the interest of the majority is. So that tells me that Gambit probably is pretty popular. I mean, and they have the data to analyze for that stuff. So I mean, I completely am okay with being an outlier on that front, as long as they keep giving me strikes. I don't care.
I have my Dredgen pin. I like it.
Chat, way to friend zone Gambit. Sorry, Beard. What were you?
No, I was done anyway. So okay. Whatever.
I know it's your pet peeve for someone to talk over you. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
I do have a spoiler for something coming up that I'm working on, since Beard was chatting about. Yeah, I showed you guys. I showed you guys the lyrics. So I am working on another song it's kind of a parody. It's totally a parody song. It's themed after this current season. So keep your eyes and ears out for that. I have the song finished recording. I need to go back and edit as far as like voice levels and stuff like that, and just clean it up. But I'm having my clan on PlayStation send me a bunch of Gambit clips. So I'm hopefully going to do a video to go with it, to be kind of like Log and how he does his. But that'd be
really cool.
Yes,
I think it would be great if you could get Log in there for like just a little bit, like somewhere.
Like get him to do.
He would love.
Oh, I know. I kind of want him to do the Linkin Park aspect of it.
Yeah.
Because
he totally would.
Me doing that is terrible.
It would be a great like dueling system, if you will, because it would be awesome for that. And he would look at it and be like, "Where do I sign up? How many beers do I need to drink beforehand?"
Love it. I need to message him and see if he'll be up for it.
Oh, he would do it. He would do it. He would be like, "Wait, I get to do another parody song? I don't have to do much? I like this. I like this a lot."
Thing is I've got to clean up my end of it, because Amy Lee is a really hard singer to mimic.
Oh, yeah. I'm gonna say that as soon as I started reading some of it, I was like, "Why does this sound Oh, goodness.
Yeah, welcome to Why My Throat Hurts, too.
Yeah, I'm going to say, I feel like between me dealing
and on that note, we'll end with context. It's important.
Hey.
It's important.
Getting ripped.
And done.
All right. Like officially?
Yes.
Okay.
Literally. Context. It's important.
I'm gonna say I stopped talking right there because I figured that was a good
Beard's like, I'm done.
Just leave it. Just leave it. That's good.
Oh, goodness.
Cut print. We're good. Copy.
Guys.
But yeah, no, Beard. Go listen to the end of the first segment of the Nier. I went out and found the sound of a please flip over tape to side B. I was like, yes, this is what I want.
That's awesome. Okay, I'm gonna go to bed because moving.
I don't have much time here, and I need
redeem code context for a discount on your next massage.
Hey, I had an awesome massage. My wife is a girl. She is a massage therapist, and she's very professional about what she's doing.
The best part is, like, that is all actually true. But at the same time, it is also the most terrible thing for you to say at that juncture.
Either that or it just says plenty about us. I don't know which.
Yeah.
She is the only woman I go to get massages from.
Okay. And on that note, guys, have a great night.
Oh, I knew that one was going to sound bad. Don't start massage stories with my wife without context. I mean, it is after dark. I could share stories, but I'm not going to.
No, I think I'm good.
Oh my god, I only have 25%. God damn it.
Okay. Night, you two. Night, chat.
Night, chat.